Welcome to the Lounge Lizards podcast, presented by Fabrica 5. It's so good to have you here. It's a leisure and lifestyle podcast founded on our love of premium cigars, as well as whiskey, travel, food, work, and whatever else we feel like getting into. My name is Gizmo. Tonight I'm joined by Senator, Chef Ricky, Pagoda, and Bam Bam. And our plan is to smoke a cigar, drink some cognac, talk about life, and of course, have some laughs. So take this as your 153rd official invitation to join us and become a card-carrying lounge lizard. Plan to meet us here once a week. We're going to smoke a Cuban cigar tonight, share our thoughts on it, and give you our formal lizard rating. We review yet another La Casa del Habano release. We recap our night with the Buena Vista Social Orchestra live, and we answer a listener email on when to smoke aging cigars, all among a variety of other things for the next 2 hours. So sit back, get your favorite drink, light up a cigar, and enjoy as we pair Remy Martin Tercet with the H. Upmann Royal Robusto LCDH. A Cuban Robusto tonight on the pod from H. Upmann. It's the Royal Robusto La Casa del Habano release. And it's a little bigger than what we know from a Cuban Robusto, 52 ring gauge by 5 3/8 inches long. And boys, this has a second LCDH band, which in this room has not yielded success thus far. And I pulled all the ratings, not only on the other Upmanns we've done, but the other LCDHs. And I'm hoping for some redemption tonight.
Yeah, us too. It's a gorgeous cigar.
I'm not excited. Nervous, not excited.
I will say, and Bam pointed this out when we opened the box, these cigars do smell incredible.
Just at the foot.
The foot smells great.
Yeah.
Very aromatic.
You got to put it right to your nostril. It's really quite delicious.
Bam's love for the feet continues.
Dr. Scholes.
All right, boys, let's cut this thing. See, we're getting on the cold draw on the wrapper.
Nice open draw.
I'm hopeful. Mine's nice.
Lots of cedar.
Just a slight bit of resistance here for me.
Me too.
I've got more resistance than I would like, but the cold draw is extremely flavorful.
What are you getting?
I'm getting cedar and cinnamon.
Cinnamon for sure.
Baking spice generally.
I'm not getting as much cedar, which I'm actually happy about.
Me too.
I have to say it. Some dried fruit.
There's definitely dried fruit there.
And a biscuit type thing happening.
Yeah. We've called this out before. It's almost like a fig Newton-y type of thing.
Raisin fig Newton type thing.
With a little bit of like shortbread, like you're saying.
Correct.
Taste the wrapper. It's like they sprinkled cinnamon on it.
Don't start with the coatings. Let's not start with the coatings.
I sprayed them before I brought them here.
Did you?
It's a gingerbread.
Did you do a grinder spritz?
I did. I did a spritz with a little cinnamon water.
This is good. All right.
It's a nice preview, guys.
Feels like it's a good Christmas cigar so far.
All right, boys, let's light this thing. The H. Upmann Royal Robusto La Casa del Habano release. Again, it's a 52 ring gauge Robusto by 5 3/8 inches long.
What's the box date and code on this?
This is a good one, Bam. BRE,
Oh, wow.
June 2019.
Excellent code.
So BRE is the Upmann factory.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we highlight that is because very similar to the run of Lub 13, 14, early 15, which we experienced on the Upmann 2 and is very, celebrated across the collectors out there, Lub codes.
Worldwide.
BRE, 5 years behind it, is proving to be a very, very good code for cigars coming out of the Upmann factory.
I got to say, as I toast the foot on this, the aroma is...
It's really nice.
I mean, it is very, very good. I haven't taken a draw yet. It's outstanding so far.
Ooh, the first draw. Fantastic.
Is it floral? Are you getting I'm getting floral just on the aroma.
I think my first impression right now is I can taste the aged tobacco. I can taste a little bit of mustiness on the light.
I love that.
I've just got to say, I'm incredibly happy on the light because this actually tastes more Partagas than Upmann to me on the light. If I were blind, to me, this could taste like some aged D4s that I've had that are like very cinnamon forward. I love the flavor.
Yeah. Although I'm getting a lot of nuttiness in this, which balances that baking spice for me nicely.
Agreed. I get a lot of nuts as well.
Yeah. Wow. This is
smell,
shocking.
The smell at the head of the cigar, I mean, the foot of the cigar smells great too, but the head of the cigar Smells fantastic.
Yeah, it mimics the aroma on the foot, I think.
So the factory name on this cigar, boys, is in Edmundo. Obviously, it shares the exact same size as the Monte Cristo Edmundo we did quite a few episodes back. And this size is not, it doesn't exist elsewhere in regular production outside of that Monte Cristo in this Royal Robusto. However, there are a ton of regionals and special editions that have been done with this size over the years. But the reason why I find this interesting is that H. Upmann didn't have a Robusto in regular production until this cigar was released in 2011. Like, it's weird that there's not an Upmann Robusto, just standard production Robusto. You know, and like when you order the combinaciones, they call it, the combination of the global brands, the 5 global brands, there is an Upmann Robusto in there that's a 5x50 like the others, which I guess is just made for that specific box. So the whole decision-making process here with a global brand not having a Robusto, only having one with this second LCDH band on it, obviously charging a premium, it's a little odd.
I always find it very strange because sometimes I look at the 52 ring gauge and it seems so big. I don't know why.
Pagoda, this has got to be up your power alley. This is previewing to me a very strong medium cigar, right?
No, definitely. You know,
full flavored right now. Well, I'd say medium
to full. Yeah,
at the moment.
I'm sorry to go back to Pagoda's last comment. I'm looking at his cigar. Someone did a bad job rolling. That's bigger than 52 ring gauge.
It does look a little bigger than the others.
It's bigger than everyone's cigar. It almost right? It looks, that's definitely 53. It looks like a 54 from afar.
Cuba being Cuban.
Senator, are you questioning Cuban quality control?
Yeah.
Senator, very astute. That's I need to get those prescriptions that you're wearing because he's not wrong.
It's definitely bigger.
It's honestly almost a 16th of an inch, which is a lot.
Wow.
That's a lot.
No, I was wondering because it did look a little big.
I thought it was so strange when Pagoda said that because he used to love like Toros and larger ring gauge cigars. But when I looked over, I'm like, it looks like he's smoking a Toro. And we've all got a Robusto.
How weird is that? That's kind of cool.
Hey, listen, more to enjoy today, so no complaints.
Correct.
Well, there is, in Cuban quality control, there is a tolerance, I think, of a few, degrees in the ring gauge either way. So that's sometimes, even if you'll get a box of D4, which obviously is in a wider production, they make way more of them than they do of these, but you can get D4s that are pretty thin. You get others that are a little bigger. You can find a variety even in a box. The color matching is there, but you can see a varietal in the size. So
makes sense.
I guess Pagoda got the better end of that tonight. We'll see how his smokes.
Absolutely. And it's very, very flavorful. Baking spices into cinnamon, leaving with the cinnamon end. It's really.
It's a very handsome cigar. The wrapper looks beautiful. It's very clean. And then you have this LCDH kind of maroon band on it. And it gives the wrapper this slight almost maroonish color.
Rosado.
Rosado, yeah.
I will say when I opened this box, and I've had this box kind of keyed away for the podcast probably for about 2 years because I wanted to give that BRE 19 a little bit of time. I didn't want to smoke them too soon because Senator and I specifically have smoked some Cognacs with the same exact code.
Mm-hmm.
And leading up to, I think a few months ago, you had good experience reaching into that box again. But for me, mine have been a little more difficult. And the reason why I compare them is I was nervous, Senator, that the wrapper on this does seem a little thick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Compared to other Cuban
Cubans.
Robustos.
You're not wrong.
Absolutely. You're right about that.
The seams are pretty visible, although
it's got a rustic look.
Yeah, mine looks like the surface of the moon. It's like I'm hearing chefs saying very smooth wrapper and all. I said, all right, look at mine. It's like it's like
Pagoda's is super rustic.
Mine looks great. I don't see any seams really on mine, or
Although I like cigars that are interesting in character.
Yeah, I'm just happy that this is burning and smoking the way it is because some of those thicker wrapper cigars, even from BRE, in the 18-19 range, I've been fighting the combustion on those, fighting the burn. So we'll see how this does tonight.
I've just got to say, I'm so pleasantly surprised. If I had to rate this cigar right now, it would score very high.
I completely agree.
This is exactly the flavor profile that I love and pursue. I can't believe how this is the first LCDH banded cigar that I feel like is really made for me.
Let's hope it continues.
So, boys, this is the 10th cigar we're doing tonight from H. Upmann on the pod. We'll go through the list of those and the ratings towards the end of the program. This is our 6th banded LCDH cigar. We'll also go through those. We've done 5 others. And then technically, this is our 7th LCDH cigar because the Connoisseur A from H. Upmann, as we know, is an LCDH and Habano specialist release, but it does not have this LCDH band on it. So this is our 7th LCDH on the pod. So hopefully, like you're saying, Senator, this is going to perform more in line with what we expect from a premium Habanos Robusto.
It's an awful lot of LCDH cigars that we don't like.
I'd argue almost all of them.
Yeah. A lot of hopeful expectations there.
I'm glad I don't have any memory. It's like Groundhog Day. If I were given one today, it tastes new.
The finish on this is very long.
It is very long, and I think it becomes very Cubanesque. I like there's a certain Cuban quality I think which was very different from the when we described it, but it lingers on the top of my palate, which is very different from the sweetness I get in the front.
For me, the finish is very floral.
Yeah,
and
floral.
It extends for quite a while.
Yeah, I used to call it floral salty. Do you remember? Yeah.
This is off to a fantastic start for me.
Oh yeah, me too.
And I just love that you can really taste the aged tobacco in a cigar that was not sold as being aged. Like this aged in my tower over the last few years. I put it aside, like I said, about 2 years ago to not smoke and do it on the pod. And doing it tonight, it's like this is the fruit of buying a box at a reasonable price, putting it aside for a few years, and you're tasting that now. As opposed to having to pay for it.
It's called elite humidity management.
Exactly right.
It's been through all stages.
So for any listener out there who is interested in the history of H. Upmann, like I said, this is the 10th H. Upmann we've done on the podcast tonight. You can go back and find on our ratings guide on the website all of the different cigars we've done. And throughout that, especially in the earlier episodes, we covered a lot of H. Upmann history. We're not going to do that tonight, but if you're interested in H. Upmann history, just go visit one of those other episodes.
Do we know how many Partagas we've done in comparison to H. Upmann?
It's right around 10.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, we've done quite a few.
We can't stand those 2 marcas, man.
Sounds like we haven't done enough.
I know.
I also like that for a cigar with some age, it starts firmly medium. Like there's no mild medium start to this cigar like some I feel like that we've had where they're aged, they're smooth, they're nice, but we kind of are waiting for them to build up to what we typically like to smoke, and this starts right there, which I like.
Chef, what's going on over there? You look disgruntled.
No, I'm not. I'm not. It's a little bit of what, you nailed it, Senator, in that, like right off the light, it's something to like dive into. And I've grown accustomed to lighting a cigar, allowing it to develop and seeing, how it changes and what's going on. It hasn't changed a whole lot for me just yet. And I'm not upset about it, but I'm kind of waiting for that to happen. And I don't know that it's really going to happen on this cigar this early on. It's going to happen later. But, to start, I got some sweet notes. I got some baking spice. And now I'm getting sort of more savory. Like the baking spice isn't lasting as long. The cinnamon's not as present. So I'm sitting here and I'm doing some serious retrohaling and some playing around with the smoke on my palate, just trying to get something else out of it. And
for me, that savoriness comes through in the nutty note that I'm
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
It's almost like a walnut almond thing.
Yeah.
For me.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
It's not earthy almonds or
that's it. Yeah. It's not the sweeter nuts.
Yeah.
It's not the pecan.
Like cashews.
It's not the exactly. Yeah. It's kind of a tannic, like walnut's a little bit astringent and tannic. That's kind of like
very satisfying.
Yeah.
And very Upmann-esque.
Yeah.
Very Upmann-esque, yeah.
I'll tell you, it's really interesting because this cigar, like, there are not many cigars that leave a very, even like a sweetness on my lips. For some reason, I feel that it's It is very pronounced. It's excellent.
It's that cinnamon dusted on that wrapper.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Fairy dust.
My research has led me to nothing. I've yet to find anything about spraying tobacco. I know I mentioned it a few pods ago.
Yeah.
And I can't find anything about adding flavoring or some kind of substance to create more smoke. It's all pretty tight-lipped.
I'm going to talk to 60 Minutes about doing a special on this. We need to get to the bottom of it.
You play that Law and Order music, and it really inspired me to find something. And I just the first unsolved case on Law and Order over here.
So, boys, let's talk about a little news. I always like the look of these, the Spanish jars that Tabacalera, who's the Spanish distributor for Habanos SA, always puts out. They have like a series of jars that they do.
Oh, those are gorgeous.
Ceramic jars. And what's interesting about it, and the reason why I bring it up, first, I have never had one. I think that they're beautiful pieces. They're kind of very classic, old school ceramic. Almost looks like it's hand painted in a way. But what's cool is, so they've done this. This is going to be their 8th time, but this time they're releasing a cigar jar with 19 Hoyo de Monterrey Epicure No. 2s. This release is specifically made for Spain, and it's called the Siri Sevilla. So it's a line of limited edition pottery from the kilns of La Cartuja de Sevilla in Spain, and they make 2,000 of these pieces, which are replicas of the Partagas and Ramon Ionis jars that were manufactured in the mid-1900s. But I just think that's so cool. I know that, it's a regular production cigar. They simply put another band on the foot of them that say Siri Sevilla. But I just love the look at those.
I mean, they always look beautiful, but my problem is the price on those is always crazy. And at that point, you're literally paying for the jar.
Yeah. What's interesting, though, Senator, to your point on this one, the suggested retail price, and I don't know what the markup is, and I don't know how crazy the Spanish market or collectors out there chase these, but the price on these is 475 euros, which works out to about $530. So on those 19 cigars, it puts each cigar at about $28. Okay. So compared to what you're paying on a normal Epi, you're probably paying what, $5 to $6 more a cigar for the jar, which all in all isn't as crazy as a lot of these other special quote unquote releases that that are coming out.
I hope we can actually find them at that price point, because I just feel like years ago when I used to see those jars pop up, the prices were silly.
That's true.
At that point, you're literally paying for the jar.
By the way,
don't get why are there 19 sticks in that jar?
That's also
I think what they're trying to do is just keep those jars identical. So if you collect all 8 of them, they're sitting on your shelf and they're identical in size and just have the different branding on them.
The identical cigar in every jar.
Yeah. So that's each
also
year
disappointing.
We've already established that they don't roll it in the same size every time.
Some jars you could fit 20 in.
20, yeah.
No, so every year they do a different cigar. So
Okay.
I believe last year's Sevilla jar was the Vegas Verbena Unicos. There was a Ramon Ionis jar. Prior to that, there's a Partagas jar. I think they had P2s in them.
I have
so
to compliment you.
Quite a bit.
Excellent pronunciation on all of that.
Oh, thank you.
Not one faux pas.
Oh,
Very impressed.
Those listened up, hang on.
Can we mark that down on the ledger, please?
I wouldn't mind listening to it again.
Let's just say you've got 1 Lizard's approval.
Oh,
It was pretty good.
I didn't say it well.
You said it pretty well.
It's progress.
You're doing great, Gus.
Thank you. The only native Spanish speaker in the room says that
That's
I'm doing
also
well,
true.
so I'll take it.
I think that third note, if you will, that I was kind of hoping to come through is coming through now.
Which is?
It's just a deeper, more fuller. I'm getting a little bit more sweetness now. It feels a little bit rounder. The finish is much longer, and it feels more bready. I was missing that.
Oh,
before.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I was missing that before, and it was really bothering me.
I also have to say, I'm looking at everyone's cigar. The burn line's beautiful, I think. The ash is structural. It's such a great cigar. It's beautifully made.
Yep. So I'm getting now
So
to
far,
that yeasty note that I've called out often in cigars prior, and it's a note that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I also now on the finish just get a little faint bit of cocoa. Is anybody else getting that?
Yeah,
I'm not getting cocoa yet.
I'm getting pretty heavy floral on the very tail end of the finish.
Yeah.
Which is really unique. Usually you get that on the front.
Like, this is going to sound weird, like cocoa powder.
Yeah.
Like it's very,
That's
like a
very
light,
specific.
It is,
And I
'cause-
know what that is because I used to love cocoa powder
Yeah,
growing
I
up.
used
it's
to
just
love-
like a faint. It's just in
Oh,
the
yeah.
background. It's not like a
Dude, I was
like you bit
sniffing
a
cocoa
piece of
powder when I
chocolate.
was a kid.
Jesus Christ.
I loved it so much.
Well,
Bam,
well,
Bam,
now you're sniffing something else, of course.
Bam was in love with the cocoa.
I think the way I would describe the smoke, and I'm curious if you guys agree with this, like the smoke in your mouth, it feels very leathery to me. It feels thick. Like you said, the long finish, but there is like a hint of like that leather thing
Coats your mouth.
about it, which
Yeah.
I like.
Oh yeah, we all like that.
because it adds value to a cigar. I think when the draw
100%.
lingers.
And you
you
can
know?
take time between your draws.
Exactly.
So that's what I was missing early on. And it just, I was waiting for it to come through, and really good cigars prior, it usually happens after a few draws.
Mm-hmm.
Here it took a little bit longer for me. I've also never sat in this area of the room, not to be that specific, but I think that has something to do with it sometimes.
Are you saying Rooster's taste buds might be thrown off by where he sits?
Well, you do look like the emperor, the emperor chef, sitting alone on that big, nice little love seat.
Wow. Yeah, I'm getting so much yeast and cinnamon now. It's crazy. Wow. I think for Rooster, he's always in this seat, so he may not notice, but I've bounced around a little bit in around the room. So I think every position provides a different experience.
All right, boys, let's do our pairing a little early on the episode tonight, but I think this cigar calls for a really high quality pairing, and I'm hoping we have one in the Remy Martin Tercet, which is not a cheap spirit and doesn't have a specific age statement on it like a typical cognac would have a VS, VSOP, XO. My feeling is this is kind of just a step above the 1738, certainly in price, and is a little bit hotter at 84 proof, 42%.
So I've got to say something. Prior to recording, you to put your nose to the spirit, it would singe your nose hairs. It is settled.
Yeah.
Chef,
Yep.
I'm getting a little cocoa
It's opened up.
That's a really nice cognac.
on the nose, just a touch of cocoa.
The nose is still aggressive for me.
I don't know. It's gotten a little bit.
It's cooled off a little
it
bit.
has cooled
Mhm.
off. Yeah,
I like it.
Wow.
I like it.
I gotta say, this is one of probably the first cognac I've ever had where I could actually taste grapes. I'm getting, it's very wine forward. I'm getting, wow.
Well, it says the wine master was involved in this.
Yeah. So apparently there's 3 different people that have their hands in this. There's a wine master, a master distiller, and I forgot who the third guy
The
is.
cellar master.
The cellar master, yes.
What are you getting on the finish? Any cocoa at all? Because it's pretty cocoa-y for me.
I get-
I'm getting a little.
So unusual.
I get cocoa, I get pineapple, I get
Mm.
cinnamon.
Pineapple, yes.
We get cinnamon a lot. I'm not getting like caramel. I'm not getting vanilla or any of those things, but
Who thought about this? Because the pairing is almost perfect.
Honestly, it was an accidental pairing. I walked into, I didn't know what we were going to do with this cigar tonight. And I walked into the liquor store and we were looking, you had suggested a cognac of some sort or an Armagnac. And I saw this Remy, and we haven't done Remy, if you believe it. We did the 1738 almost 100 episodes ago. So it's been almost 2 years on this podcast since we did Remy. So I was like, it's time to revisit it. And this bottle, Senator was finding at a $140 price point. I got it at my local liquor store for $114. Had a pretty compelling story. And I thought with what I was hoping was going to be a higher quality, higher end Cuban cigar experience tonight in this Royal Robusto,
dude, that finish,
I was hoping it was going to be good, and it seems like it's working.
that finish goes on for days.
I'm sorry. To
still
Bam's
going.
point, the pairing is outrageously fitting.
Wow.
Like the notes in both. We started the cigar talking about it having a long finish. The flavor notes match up.
They do.
I'm shocked how well this pairs.
What's really nice is a small sip, let it curl in your mouth,
Yeah.
take it down, and then take a draw of your cigar right away.
Yep.
That is really a delicious pairing.
And you know what? This is the beauty of high proof spirits. So it's a little spicy. It's a little, burn your nose hair in the beginning.
But there's body to it, right?
Exactly. There's body to it, but it really, when you have that high of a alcohol level, and it's not extremely high, but I think this is Remy's highest ABV cognac. It allows for a lot of flavor to come through, and it's why I'm a big proponent of blanco tequilas and unaged mezcals and no ice and spirits, because I want all that flavor. And this is delivering that with a super long finish. And I think it has obviously everything to do with the blending and the three guys that are involved, but also the fact that the decision to go at 84 proof was a good one here.
And I think the thing that's great, I mean, for as aggressive as the nose was at first, especially when it was early on just sitting in the glass, when you drink it, it doesn't drink nearly as hot as it smells on the nose.
There's no burn in the throat,
Yep.
despite what you're getting on the nose.
Agreed.
There is a warming effect.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a warming effect.
There's a
Totally,
warming in the
yes.
chest for
There
sure.
is, but
Yeah.
like a nice warming.
Oh, it's-
like
it's-
sometimes
yeah.
I say
Yes.
warming, and
Yes.
it's like
Yeah.
a little unpleasant warming. This is like just perfect.
This is cozy warming.
Yeah.
Honestly, this would be perfect. This pairing,
It's perfect for fall.
I was going to say it'd be great during the holidays.
Yeah.
I think between Christmas and Thanksgiving, this would be an exquisite pairing.
I called it earlier with the Christmas cigar
Oh.
and this spirit. This is
I agree.
Do we have more of these cigars?
We can get more.
Merry
Can we?
Christmas.
Pagoda. I'm curious. Did you end up putting ice in yours?
No, not yet. The ice is so bloody far away from me.
That's on purpose.
I will
No.
say,
no, but I am enjoying it. I must say, I don't think it needs ice.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and to credit to us and for the discussion we've had, and we've joked about the ice thing, but all of us sniffed this. We didn't sip it before we came on air, and everybody kind of gave it. We gave each other this wide-eyed, like, "Holy shit, this is going to be hot." And I'm glad we resisted throwing the ice in it, because it really has paid off, I think, because the leather, the long finish on the cigar paired with this long finish cognac. But I always talk about the battling of the senses. Like, they're not battling at all.
No.
Like, they're very complementary, and it's almost like they were made for one another.
Well, they have similar notes.
Yeah.
There's cocoa
Very
in
similar,
both.
yeah.
There's cinnamon in both.
Cocoa, cinnamon. Yeah.
You mentioned pineapple.
Yeah.
There is like that faint pineapple that you get in the front for me on
Mhm.
this cognac.
And now I'm getting cocoa, like in the cigar, right?
Of
I think it's
course.
enhanced that
Oh,
cocoa
100%.
flavor right in the front. It's like as
100%.
soon as you have that sip, it's like, oh, it's so good, but
it's
it's so
delicious.
pronounced. Because it's only then I recognize some flavors.
So, boys, I know we're talking about it, but we're coming to the end of the first third here on the Royal Robusto from H. Upmann. I'm finding the development that's happening, aside from the sipping the cognac, which we had, the way this is developing, just slightly elevating in body, slightly elevating in strength, and the way the flavors are really coming together, I'm finding this to be a very refined smoke. Very refined.
Outstanding.
Well, this is a refined evening.
I think the smoothness and the creaminess is it's elevating as you're getting into it. So it's becoming more of it's like you said, it's definitely a sophisticated, complex cigar. And it's previewing that way now.
Yeah. It just eased into the right lane for me. Like, yeah.
I mean, I think, like Ricky was mentioning, for Remy, this is their highest proof cognac they make, and definitely the fullest experience and finish. I think this is the fullest Upmann I've ever had. I can't think of an Upmann that has as lingering a finish as this cigar.
The only cigar I would compare this to,
Dude,
and
I think he's right, man.
I would agree. I think the Sir Winston is there's a
Oh,
sister
no.
component to this in the leathery,
I don't see that.
in the leathery thing,
In the flavor note,
in the flavor note.
but I don't think the finish is as long.
I agree with you on
I
that.
totally
I
agree.
agree.
This has as long of a finish as some like fuller New World cigars, which is why I'm just surprised.
Honestly, that Maduro one from Partagas has a very similar long, deep finish.
Yeah.
This is a much more elegant cigar.
Agree.
So I've had one Sir Winston that Rooster gave me a couple years ago now at this point, and I had an outer body experience with that thing.
What is it? What was it?
Is that the one where you poured water?
No. This was
Thank
before
Christ.
this was before the water games and all that stuff. We were drinking a mole pechuga. I brought a bottle of mole pechuga. He gave me the Sir. I think it was a 2014. Was it maybe?
Sir Winston?
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
And it was.
Where is he?
It was.
He got off easy tonight.
He did.
And it was a very long finish for me, but a lot more baking spice in this. Leaned a little bit sweeter. I wasn't getting a whole lot of leather in that. But I just remember like I was like, wow, look, okay, this is what the guys are talking about.
It's one of the holy
and
grail cigars.
yeah,
honestly.
yeah, that's to this day, it's probably the greatest cigar I've ever smoked.
Mm.
Yeah, and all of you guys were there at the lounge. You were all having a conversation, and I was just sitting against the wall by myself. I was with you guys, but I wasn't paying attention to any of you because
Rooster
I was
probably
so-
told you to do that so that none of us asked him for a
Yeah, exactly.
2014.
Yeah, where'd you get that?
That's exactly right.
Well, yeah, he gave it to me after he came to the restaurant, so I guess he had a very good experience at the restaurant. That was his thank you.
All right, I'll have Rooster over for dinner.
Yeah.
So, boys, we've talked about Remy's history. We did 3 other Remys on the podcast, but let's talk specifically about this release because I found it very interesting when I was reaching for it in the store. It has a really interesting story, so let's talk about that. This is the Tercet again from Remy Martin. It was launched globally in 2019. It's made from a blend of Grand Champagne and Petit Champagne Eau de Vie, and we'll talk about Eau de Vie in a second. The Tercet was created to be a more contemporary expression of cognac, designed with a lighter, fruitier profile compared to the brand's more traditional offerings. The name Tercet refers to a trio, or a group of 3, representing the collaboration between 3 key figures at Remy Martin. The cellar master, here we go with the pronunciations, Baptiste Loiseau, the wine master, Francis Nadeau, and the distillation master, Jean-Marie Bernard. The whole project is designed to highlight the craftsmanship and expertise that each of these 3 men brought to the creation of Tercet. It's produced using the same copper pot stills as the brand's other cognac, but with a focus on amplifying the fruit-forward character of the cognac, emphasizing a fresh grape aroma. As with most Remy Martin cognacs, Tercet is aged in French oak barrels, but the focus again is more on preserving the freshness of the Eau de Vie, rather than heavily emphasizing the oak flavors. So the flavor notes they provide described as having a bright, fresh, and fruity profile with notes of apricot, citrus, and tropical fruits, which good call out there on the pineapple, Chef Ricky, balanced by subtle vanilla and toasted oak from the aging process.
Huh.
I'm not getting a lot of vanilla.
I'm not getting the vanilla either.
I'm not getting much vanilla. What I
No.
do get, what on the aroma when I first got into this after it aired out a bit, I did mention how for me it was still very wine forward,
Yeah.
and so it seems like that's what they, that was one of their goals in developing this, and they nailed it.
So I think like we're seeing with a lot of manufacturers of spirits and in scotches, in whiskeys, in variety of things, including cognac, this is Remy Martin's attempt to broaden their reach from what I think traditional spirit drinkers think of cognac, who don't reach for cognac. Maybe they're trying to reach a younger audience. So their whole idea here is maintaining tradition while attracting a new, more contemporary audience. So let's talk about Eau de Vie. We've mentioned that word before.
I have to interrupt you.
I
though,
had no idea what
if
it
you
was.
don't mind.
Go ahead.
This is such a. First of all, did we talk price on this bottle?
So it retails for $140 based on what Senator was finding.
Right.
However, tonight I got lucky. We got this for $114.
Extraordinarily lucky, but let's assume it's $140. So it's expensive. It's very rich and viscous, and it drinks like a very sophisticated cognac. Probably the most sophisticated cognac I've ever had. And I've only had cognacs in this room. I don't see a younger generation pursuing this type of cognac, where like the Remy 1738, which is really smooth, super, super easy to drink, and much more affordable. I kind of see that as the entry point.
And
Not this.
I think it's because the 1738 is more vanilla, sort of caramel,
Yeah.
forward,
Yeah.
and this is more of they're focusing more on the grape.
Yeah.
And you're really getting that, especially so I think part of the reason why the nose is sort of more subdued now is because we've taken some in, right? Like now we're drinking the spirit, so our nasal passages aren't reacting to just the aroma. So once you get your nose back in that glass after sipping, you get a lot less heat and spice and just more of the fruity sort of grape forward.
What's kind of funky is like right at the tip of the finish, it's like a tannin,
Mhm.
like you get in some wines almost.
It's like exactly
just that
Yeah,
tannin.
Yeah.
It's very faint. It comes and goes very quickly.
I think it's amazing they're able to do that with an 84 with a 84 proof spirit.
I'm saying I kind of disagree with their description as the pursuing the younger generation. I'm not sure if it's for them.
Oh, I missed that. Did they say they're aiming for the younger generation?
Yeah, they're trying to maintain tradition and reach from a more contemporary audience.
Yeah.
Oh,
Contemporary,
more
typically
contemporary
younger,
consumer.
right?
No, I think the younger audience wants the sort of typical cognac, which is just kind
Agreed.
of sweet forward.
Yeah.
And no.
So we've used the phrase eau de vie before, but we've never talked about what it is. The word is French and means waters of life. And they are clear, colorless fruit brandies distilled from fermented fruit juice or wine. In the context of this cognac we're drinking tonight, and brandy as well, eau de vie refers to the raw spirit that is distilled from the wine before it undergoes aging. So let's talk about the production process. Eau de vie are the high-proof distilled spirits created from the fermentation and distillation of white grapes, primarily Uni Blanc, as we've talked about before, in the Cognac region of France. After distillation, these eau de vie are clear and unaged, almost like a Blanco. That's what I'm thinking about when I was reading this prior to coming here. It reminds me of Tequila Blanco, which is just the raw spirit distilled before it enters an aging process. The eau de vie are clear and unaged, often having a sharp, fruity character. In cognac, the eau de vie are aged in French oak barrels, like we talked about, for at least 2 years and often much longer. I'm curious what Senator would think the age on this is, but it's where they slowly develop color, complexity, and flavors. Over time, the oak then imparts characteristics like vanilla, caramel, and spice, transforming the fresh fruit-forward eau de vie into cognac. Outside of cognac, eau de vie can be made from various fruits such as pears, plums, cherries, or raspberries, creating fruit brandies like Kirsch, which is cherry brandy, or Port Williams, which is a pear brandy. These spirits are often consumed unaged and maintain the pure essence of the fruit. So that is
Oui, monsieur, oui.
what we're talking about when we say eau de vie, which you have to say that with your pinky out, Bam.
Correct.
Eau de vie.
You didn't have your pinky out till
And
now.
thank you for that, because I was curious to know what that
Well,
was.
we had
So,
mentioned it before, and I think I butchered the pronunciation of that word previously on another episode, so I wanted to come in a little bit more educated
You've
about it.
redeemed yourself.
I'm
he's
trying
been hard
to.
at work.
I'm
You've
trying
been hard
to.
at work, man.
I'm trying to. And here's Senator with the rebuttal. Go ahead.
No, how many years did it say that?
It said that cognac is like, so VS at least 2 years, I would assume, but I don't know what it would be on this. I don't have any information on
No
the
age
on
statement
this.
at all. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
they did say 2 years, right?
Minimum 2
Minimum
years
2.
is what they're
Minimum.
saying most cognacs go through.
Most cognacs, but they're not talking about this
Mm-mm,
cognac.
mm-mm.
Yeah, I was going to say
That's
there's
the
nothing
minimum on
that's 2 years
cognac.
in this.
Minimum cognac in general, 2 years.
Mm.
So my question for you is, Senator, what do you think the age on this is compared to what we know about VSOP or XO?
I mean, I think if you take the Remy 1738, for example, it's meant to be between essentially a VSOP and an XO. So maybe some of what's in there is VSOP, which would be 4 years. Some, I'm sure plenty, 6, 8, and some even 10. I think this has got to be similar to that, but skew even older. I mean,
Really?
I think this
Yeah.
has got to be mostly. I think the minimum probably in here is like 6 years. I don't see how.
Okay.
There's no way a majority of this is 4 years. If you look at every VSOP cognac we've ever done on this
Witness.
Yep.
I called
There's-
between 5 and 7.
5 and 7.
Oh,
yeah.
there you go.
go.
there you
That's
go.
6.
I say that just because there's not a single VSOP cognac we've done on this pod,
Mm.
and we've done every major VSOP that is anywhere near the body that this has. And you need age for that. I mean, if you think of the XO cognacs we've done, which have minimum 10 years of age, all of those are rich, full-bodied, full flavor experiences. And that's what you're getting here. So, like, to me, the minimum in the bottle has got to be 6, but I think a lot of this is 8, and there's definitely 10 plus year stuff in here too.
unbelievable.
And I think the price point aligns with that. So if you know, what we know of Remy 1738, you're generally finding that between $50 and $60 somewhere in there.
I think usually 60.
60-ish. You know, if you find a deal, you may get a 55. This is a $140 bottle. We got it at a steep discount at $114. But you know, how much is Remy XO? Do you remember how much that was?
200.
Okay, so this is definitely skewing closer
Yeah.
to the XO. But what's interesting for $140, $115 spirit that we have tonight, they don't put an age statement on it. I think that's interesting that they're leaning on this story of these three guys being a part of this process. Obviously, it tracks because it performs very well. We're happy with it. But it's interesting that for that price point, 3-digit price point, they're not putting age on it.
I was just going to say, I mean, it's funny, this is where cognac and tequila are kind of boxed in because they've set up this system where there's 2 years with the VS, there's 4 years with the VSOP, there's 10 years with the XO. There's not a name for something in between. And they don't use numbers, right? It's not like Scotch where you buy a 15-year Scotch and everything in there is minimum 15 years. So there's just not really a lane for them to name it anything other than to come up with a story. It's clearly a blend of cognac from a variety of different years and harvests, but that's the best that they can do. I mean, that's why the 1738, I was very confused at first, but I get what they're doing. Like, there is no in between, and they had to create that because there is no designation that exists for something that is mostly between a 4 and 10-year age, cognac.
And that's a widespread as far as what that age does to a spirit like this.
I'll say, as good as that Remy XO was, this is giving it a run for its money.
I agree.
This is really exquisite.
I love the XO. We rated that very, very high. If you remember, we'll go through that later. Mm-hmm. To me, I'll say this. I think that as far as pairing with a Cuban cigar, I think that this expression we have tonight is some of the best cognac we've had as far as pairing with a Cuban.
The only ding is maybe it's not as refined and as exceptionally smooth as that XO was.
Sure.
That's it.
Sure.
That's really about it, right? But the flavor that you're getting, and honestly, if we're going to rate it for what we're pairing it with tonight, the pairing couldn't get better. It couldn't be any better.
I agree. That perfectly describes the difference. Like, a lot of the flavor notes in here are present in the Remy XO.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the smoothness, it's the refined nature of all of that being minimum 10 years. That is the big difference.
And that's what you're paying for.
Exactly.
I also think that it's really working well with this particular Cuban cigar.
I agree.
I'd be curious to see how it would pair with the other Cubans as well.
The other one that's coming to mind, because it's fairly recent, I don't know if it was 4 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, is the Partagas Maduro number 3 that we did. That's where my brain is going. Like, I wish I had another one of those to smoke after this.
I think that
to
would
drink
hold
with
up
this. I think it'd do well. Yeah.
I wish we had 1738 to drink side by side with this.
I have it in my locker. You want to get it?
I mean, I'll just say this. I think if you put 1738 next to this, I think you're going to really be disappointed with 1738.
I agree.
You think so?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So let's leave the disappointment for later.
I'm having a hard time trying to understand why they wouldn't put an age statement or at least a minimum age on this. I'm like, man, I really got to venture out of agave distillates because
I agree.
So it's a beautiful, dark, rich amber color, very viscous spirit, right? And to me, that comes with age and, dare I say, additives. But again, I don't know what that is in cognac and what's allowed and sort of what's acceptable versus not. But yeah, to me, this could only happen with age, but yet I don't get much oak. Like, if there's any oak here, it's a very light kiss of oak. Instead, I'm just getting like a ton of plum, some pineapple, a lot of grapes,
nuts,
right? So to me, those are all kind of fresh flavors, which would then make me say, okay, well, maybe there's not a whole lot of age on this. But then where the hell's the color and the viscosity coming from?
And the refined flavor. I mean, this is clearly something that is.
Well, if they're in aged oak barrels, there's some color that it's going to draw from that. I would think over years, right?
Yeah.
But comparing this to the 1738, it's like we said earlier. If I'm introducing someone to cognac, that's what I'm going to give them.
Absolutely.
This is not what they're going to drink.
And that's an everyday drink, right? That's a cognac that you're not going to be afraid to stock a few bottles and pull it out at will. At $140, $115, whatever. Once you hit 3 digits, it's a special occasion cognac. I don't care who you are and what you have. This is a special occasion cognac. You're not going to be reaching for this every day.
And what's 1738? 70 something bucks?
It's like 60-ish. Yeah, 60.
Yeah, like 58, 60 bucks.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent value.
Yeah. So, boys, we're coming to the halfway point now on the H. Upmann Royal Robusto. Any additional flavor notes? I mean, this is just...
Well, I don't think I've seen Senator go through a cigar faster than he's going through tonight. This is ridiculous.
This is outstanding.
Like, what's going on?
I love this cigar. I have not one complaint.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm behind. I'm trying to puff through it.
Oh, don't.
I had to put it down on my cigar rest because I was heating up. I was really just powering through it. So I'm trying to slow down, but it's hard.
It's delicious.
I'm finding it to be very consistent. I don't know if I would say this is a 2 or 3 act play. It might be like a 2-act play or developing into a second act, but I'm very happy with the act it's given me so far. Like, I'm very happy with everything so far, and if it doesn't change, I'm gonna be a happy camper.
I agree with that. It's a 1-act play for me so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to me, this is a 1-act play like most great Cuban Robustos.
Correct.
I mean, a D4 is a great 1-act play. A Ras is a great 1-act play.
Correct.
I don't think there's really many Cuban Robustos that have 2 acts or need them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's like a 1.5. Right. So I started and
Rare
at the
plus.
half.
I'm never gonna escape the rare plus.
And it just developed into something a little bit richer and rounder for me at about the halfway point. So it took a little bit longer than I was expecting. So I wouldn't say it's a complete second act, but it's definitely evolved for the better.
So, boys, we must share with the listeners, we had a little lounge outing over the weekend, and we went to see the famous and fantastic Buena Vista Social Orchestra, of course, playing the music made famous by the Buena Vista Social Club, the movie, the album, the live album at Carnegie in the late 90s, early 2000s, celebrating the classic Cuban music that has been made famous all over the world now because of that record. But man, what a treat
That was incredible.
that concert
Yeah.
was.
Outstanding.
I had no idea what to expect, and I went into that, and I came out just very happy. It was an amazing event. The music was great. It just gets you moving, and it's feel good, and everyone from the instruments played to the dancing to the singing, they did a phenomenal job.
Do we remember the name of the vocalist? What
Yes.
her name was?
So the name of the vocalist I don't have because
Okay.
she's not one of the original members of the Social Club. I only have the original members,
She was
but the singer was amazing.
incredible.
Yeah, she did a great job. So the band is led by Jesus Aguaje Ramos, which is he's the trombonist, musical director, and conductor. On piano, this guy probably impressed me the most out of anybody, was Emilio Señón Morales Ruiz. I can't pronounce that.
No, you did great. You
On-
did better than Ramos. It's Ramos.
On bass, Fabian Garcia, and on congas and bongo was Luis Betún Mariano Valiente Marin.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
that's
my
Spanish for
Yes,
Oh.
dude.
So
that
those
was
four
great.
original
job.
members of the Buena Vista Social Club performed alongside, I would say, 4 or 5 other instrumentalists and vocalists, and it was a fantastic show.
The young trumpet player up front,
Oh, he was great.
he was really,
was
really
killing
good.
it.
Oh yeah, hit those notes beautifully.
That was his nickname. They called him Tiburon.
Tiburon.
When the show started.
So they started about 8:05. They went until, and we'll talk about this, they got cut off around 10:30, which caused some frustration among the group. But as Chef Ricky said, I
Well,
mean,
with you two, not the group.
You're
Oh, no.
putting that very mildly.
yeah, it took it down a little bit of a notch. We'll talk about that in a minute. But as Chef Ricky was saying, the performance was great. They went through so many of the songs we know and love, and honestly, most of them, aside from some changing of arrangements, it sounded exactly like the record.
Yeah.
Like, they really sounded great. There were some arrangement changes. They did some other things with the songs, but even the improvisation, some of the other things they did inside the construct of the songs we know and love, I mean, it was really awesome. I'm glad we did it.
I haven't done many live shows. In fact, this was probably my first one as an adult, right? And I'm in my 40s. But one of my favorite things if I watch live shows on YouTube or or see performances on television, one of my favorite things is seeing how the band communicates with one another within the set. And it might have been actually, I think it was you, Ben. You were just very impressed at how in sync they were with the ending of every song, and just there was never any miscommunication.
It was crisp, and the
Yeah.
musicianship was
Yes.
on point.
Yeah. And they were just always in sync with one
And
another.
the way they transitioned was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep. It's just very elegantly walking off stage. He'd always take the singer by the hand. They cross arms and walk off stage and then just show up right on time. And yeah, very professional, very well done.
It was very classy.
I just love that, you go to certain shows and there's always kind of like a star that really shines brighter than the group. And I felt like with them, there was not one weak link. I mean, everybody was just amazing. Like I was just so surprised, and I like how at different moments they like featured, each of them kind of individually to really give them a
They each
chance
had their
to shine.
solo.
And
Yeah.
That's
I
a
thought
great
it
point.
was-
Yeah.
It was really cool, and then fascinating to see. There were two trombonists there, and the main guy who kind of
He's the maestro.
exactly.
Yeah.
Aguaje.
His daughter also plays the same instrument he does, and that was very cool to see. the
That
two
was
of
her
them up there.
daughter?
That was his daughter.
Yeah.
She was very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible. And she was also singing, and so was
Yes,
Tiburon was also
Yeah,
the trumpet
that's
player.
right.
When they don't play, they sing. And I'll tell you, that was a really impressive part when they had these 5-part harmonies on some of the, the vocal moments that we all know and love. They sounded perfect.
No mistakes.
There were no mistakes.
And to Senator's point, every individual on that stage could be a headliner in any band.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were excellent.
Yeah.
So,
That
I mean, if any listener out there, if you get a chance to go see the Buena Vista Social Orchestra, get a chance. They're touring around the United States right now. I think they have a bunch of dates left. And hopefully they'll come back around next year so that we can finally see the song that we went to see
And we did
and did not get to see.
I'm going to turn my mic off now.
the only
Chan
one.
Chan.
The only one who needs their mic on is Senator.
Correct.
It
I
was
mean,
it was not good. Yeah,
to,
that
to
was
use a word that Puba would use, it's lunacy. You go to see Buena Vista Social Club, the most famous song,
Which
is Chan Chan.
we fucking love that song.
we play it all the time.
When
And-
that song goes on, it's like our mindset changes.
So
In
for-
Cuba,
Correct. In
When-
Cuba,
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
every morning when we have breakfast, that song plays. We all sit together. We have breakfast.
and we don't
start our
say a
day.
word.
Exactly. We light up a cigar.
That's awesome.
Wow, the morning? That sounds
Oh,
aggressive.
oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow,
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys are starting.
We
the
start
morning as
early.
gangsters.
8 o'clock, we have a cigar tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. And it's just the fact that they covered every other song. I mean, there wasn't anything else that was like a really notable song that you said, oh, they didn't play that. They didn't do that.
Including a song
That
no
was
one asked for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is a problem to set this up for the listener. They start to show, I think like the first two songs were a little slow. I was honestly a little bit nervous. Then
So was I.
Yeah. Then they really picked it up. They went to Cuarto de Tulo like right away. I was like, okay, energy picked up. The vocalist came out. She was a lot of fun. Everything from there was perfect. And then the show ends and we're like, okay, no Chan Chan, no Candela. They come back. Encore, wonderful. They do this duet. I don't know if it was Silencio or one of these other songs. And it was good, but nobody cares about that song. I mean, that's not what they're famous for. And then they do Candela, which is a huge song of theirs, a hit. And okay, that was exciting. That was great. And then they left. And everyone is sitting there. I mean, we were literally chanting, Chan, 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 Chan. And there are other people in the crowd saying the same thing. And the show was over. And I'm just sitting there saying to myself, if they would have just started with Chan Chan and made it a 5-minute thing, I would have been happier
Exactly.
than sitting through every other song. But the song I actually came to hear them perform.
You know what's funny? When they came out, they actually started for about 30 seconds. They did like a
They
little
did.
Chan Chan like thing with just the instrumentalists.
That's right.
And then when the vocalist, they went into another song, then the vocalist came out like Senator said. But I think what happened here is the band mistimed their set and planned for a 10-minute intermission. And the venue that we were at with 1,300 people, it was packed. There was no way to turn over that venue. And I'm talking as a former, this is what I used to do, right? Music business stuff. They mistimed turning that venue over for a bathroom break and getting drinks. There's no way it could have ever been 10 minutes. And it's on the venue for not telling the artist that. They should have planned more appropriately for a 20 or 30-minute intermission. They came back out. They did what Senator said at the encore. They did this song nobody wanted. They extended it. They were dancing around. Then they did Candela. And then they got the kill because they had hit the 10:30 curfew at the venue, which I'm assuming is a union labor thing. But ultimately what happened was they were planning to play Chan Chan and they got cut off by whoever the stage manager was and they had to leave the stage,
The only
which
thing I
is
will
terribly
say,
disappointing.
as I was giving this more thought, and I think someone we were with mentioned this that night, and I was too frustrated. I didn't really process it until later.
Senator was seeing red.
Oh, I was.
He was pissed.
I was furious. I'm just like, this is why I came here, and I didn't get what I paid for. What the hell is this?
Meanwhile, EDF shows off an hour and a half late. And he gets the one song he wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Well, he's the one who mentioned this, and I have to think he's right.
He
so
was
this
right.
is a little odd.
Yeah.
How are they going to do Chan Chan without a guitarist?
No, I've seen
Correct.
many arrangements without guitar on piano. I've actually seen them do it. And he came out and said Chan Chan después. He did say it was coming. And when he came out for the encore, I think he was saying like, "Hey, we know you're here for Chan Chan. We know you want to hear it. We're going to get there." And then they got killed by the curfew. So I think most of the folks that see this tour are going to see Chan Chan. Of course, the date that the Lizards go to, we got burned.
I know.
but-
And I'm sorry. Like, I hear what you're saying with the venue. I still have to blame them. And
Yeah.
the only reason is like, no one wanted to hear that duet. No one. I mean, can anyone name the song?
Nope.
No idea.
No one even knows
It
the
was
song.
it was well done though.
There's no reason when you go out for an encore to do a song that no one's even heard of. Like, cut that. And Candela is great.
Candela was
But
awesome.
if you're gonna like be pressed for time, don't do 2 songs and just do Chan Chan, and we all would have been thrilled.
Yeah. Do the hit.
yeah, you got to do the hit.
I gotta say, for me, one of the impressive things with the Buena Vista Orchestra, obviously Cuban culture is very well rooted or deeply rooted in Afro-Cuban religious ceremony and things like that. And there's a few songs there where they pay homage to some of the deities in Cuban culture, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I was
Yeah,
sitting next to you.
Yeah, and
Very
a
cool.
lot of the concerts done in Spanish, obviously. So they kindly ask that whoever speaks Spanish translates to the person next to them who doesn't.
Thank you. By
And
the
I
way.
was doing some of that for BAM, and I thought that that was really neat. And they had a little homage to Celia Cruz, who's obviously a Cuban legend. And yeah, I think it's great that we were present for that, and we obviously as Cuban cigar smokers and lovers of the Cuban culture, I think that's it's a great thing to see. It's a great thing to be a part of. And
But Chef, no Chan Chan.
Thank you.
I had an 18-minute drive home, and I had Chan Chan on repeat just to get it out of my system.
We were so upset in our car that someone requested it, and then the group was like, "I can't even hear it right now. We're just too worked up."
We were so distressed.
Oh,
We
you
did it
were.
right too. I mean, I got to tell the listeners. So we came to our lounge prior. So this is Senator, me, and a bunch of other lizards at our lounge here. Chef Ricky and Bam drove separately to the event. They had some other stuff going on. But about 6 of us came here, and we were smoking cigars a couple hours before the show. And then we ordered from Casual Habana Cafe, which is a great restaurant local. They have 2 locations. I think, what is it, Hackensack and New Milford
That's right.
in New Jersey here. And we all ordered ropa vieja, and we had tostones, and we had the rice and beans, and we had our cigars. And it was just, it was such a fantastic setup to this great concert that
I love watching
know,
you talk about this. Right
and then
now.
we were smoking in my truck on the way there because I have the big truck. We were smoking and we had cigar. It was,
We were transported to Havana. It was perfect.
we were
and
set up. Yeah.
They just missed one important detail.
So again, for any of the listeners out there, Google Buena Vista Social Orchestra, see if there's any tour dates coming around near you. The tickets were very, very reasonable. I mean, we had great seats. I think we paid $78.50 all in for our seats. It was a great night, despite like we're joking about Chan Chan not being played, but definitely go see them if you can. It was a wonderful experience, especially if you love that music, you love Cuban culture, and they were just so positive. Like I felt good being there. It was the venue was great, and there were people from all walks of life in that room that night. It was just a fun time.
Yeah, I mean that's what stood out. Just the diversity of the crowd was unbelievable. It's like you saw, I mean, younger, older, every race. Like it's cool to see, a Cuban group that has spanned time and geography and so much, and especially the time we've spent in Cuba, for anyone to be able to build the profile that they have coming from a place like Cuba is really remarkable.
Just one correction, Senator. I don't think there was anyone younger than us there.
That's right.
No, there were a few. We made some friends.
I think we were.
We made friends.
They
They,
made
were,
some
they were
friends.
definitely older than us.
Well, Lizard Mafia needs to make its presence known.
All right, boys, we're coming to the last third now in the H. Upmann Royal Robusto La Casa del Habano release from Cuba. What's everybody thinking?
Am I crazy to say that the cocoa for me has ramped up pretty dramatically?
You're
I'm
not-
definitely getting the cocoa
Yeah,
now.
it's
There's no
just-
doubt about
It's a
that.
cocoa bomb.
Yeah.
I just have to say it's very funny that on the retro hail that, some of you weren't able to pick that cocoa up sooner than I was without the retro hail. Just have to throw that out there.
It's unusual because he's not wrong. I'm getting it on a traditional draw.
I'm not getting it through the retro.
But the retro, I'm getting a little earthiness.
Yes,
and
little floral.
Yeah, and the baking spice in the
exactly.
back. But
Yep.
the traditional draw is very cocoa heavy.
Honestly, the traditional draw on this cigar like punches the retrohale out for me.
I
Like
agree.
I'm actually only retrohaling maybe once every 8 or 10 draws.
Yeah.
It's all the traditional draw for me on this
It's
cigar.
really excellent and shocking how good this LCDH is right now. It's unbelievable.
And I can't stop smelling the burn line. I mean, I know I do that a lot.
I do too.
But even as we're speaking, I'm smelling the burn line more than I'm drawing the cigar. It's really aromatic.
It could be the consumption of alcohol, copious amounts, but
I don't think we're even drinking.
I don't
very
even think
much.
we've had that much.
Yeah, this is only our first glass.
it is just growing in sweetness as it's pairing with this thing. It's really a special pairing.
Yeah. So for me, cocoa's not usually a note I pick up on the retro. Cocoa's usually one of the first notes I get. The retro hill for me highlights more of the softer notes. So that's where I get more bready baking spice, or more of the delicate baking spices, those yeasty notes that I often pick out. That's where I get them on the retro hill. So cocoa is not. Now, if it were maybe like white chocolate or something, that might come through for me on a retro, but not on a traditional.
Yeah, it's a rich experience as you're sipping and taking a draw. It's remarkable.
All right, boys, it's time to do Lizard of the Week. Let's go to an email from listener Lizard Kobe. And he writes, "Hey guys, new to the podcast, and I cannot wait to listen on my way to and from work every week. I was and now have renewed adding to my collection, mostly Cubans." He says there's a price shock, of course, after not ordering for 4 years. My question is, and this is actually very appropriate for the cigar we're smoking tonight. My question is, how do you decide when to smoke older aging cigars in your collection? Most of my cigars are in the 2014 to 2017 range, and some boxes getting lower than I would like. Just want to hear your strategy to this quandary. Thanks, guys. Lizard Kobe.
Yeah, the strategy is to buy New World cigars.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right.
You've got to listen to this pod and go to the New Worlds that we fell in love with and stock up on those and just distribute your selection more democratically. Don't focus on those age sticks.
And I'll piggyback on that, Bam. I think since the price shock and the cost of replacement, I mean, that to me that's the trio of words, cost of replacement, that factors into my decision making. And I'm assuming the rest of the room here, the cost of replacing those aged cigars going to Bond Roberts or finding them from a private seller has astronomically increased. However, it's important, and I think about this a lot with my collection. Some of the oldest stuff I have, I do get concerned that they're past their peak.
Mm-hmm.
There are these peaks and valleys, especially in Cuban cigars, where, they are going to hit a moment where they're amazing and they're going to start to tail off from there. Every cigar is different. So that's really the question for me in my collection is, how do I regulate making sure I don't miss the mark on these and save them just for the sake of it, just for the sake of the cost of replacement? Like, how do I regulate making sure I'm touching each of these boxes every once in a while? And that's really what I struggle with as a collector.
So I'll say this. I'm somewhat of an outlier in that I'm definitely not saving Cuban cigars in the way that some are in this room. I think things are meant to be smoked. The cost of replacement is what it is. I would never want to sacrifice my experience just because I'm thinking about, 2 years from now when I'm out of them, now I'm going to have to pay more. My advice would be, and at least what I've done, for cigars that are not in production anymore or are limited production in some way, a limitada, a regional, even though I don't buy regionals, some other thing like that. If I have a box after, let's say they've sat for 2 years, I'll smoke one every year. And when it hits, I keep smoking it because, when something is exactly what you'd hope for and want in the experience, I'm not waiting thinking, oh, maybe it can get a little bit better. If this hits every note I want, the odds that it's going to get any better than that. And when you smoke cigars long enough, when something is really peaking, And I'll use as an example this. This is a cigar I brought on the pod, and we reviewed the Ramon Ionis 2019 Limitada,
The number 2.
the number 2.
That's right.
When I first bought that cigar, I mean, it was not great. And I let it sit, and I did the kind of one a year, and it was getting better. And then I just pulled one year, and I was like, this is unbelievable.
Time to do a deep dive into that box.
And we'll talk about a deep dive. I freaking handed
Yeah,
out, what,
yeah,
like
we did it
7
on
of
the
them
pod,
here?
yeah.
I mean, I basically killed my box. And we rated that a 10 or close to it.
It was
Yep.
very
I
highly
think it was
rated.
a 10.
Yeah,
It was
highly rated.
outstanding. And that only had a few years of age. And so my point is like, you know, this notion that we have to hold every cigar for 10 years or something crazy to have an amazing experience. I think when we spent time with Danilo in Havana, the production manager at Cohiba, I mean, he very declaratively said, you know, most cigars you don't want to have past like 3 to 5 years of age
He
to
did say that.
deliver their intended experience.
Yeah.
So I really think you've got to try one a year. And I think as soon as the light bulb goes off and you say, this is what I wanted out of that cigar, I wasn't getting it before, now I am, that's the time to enjoy it.
And the important thing to add on to what you're saying, Senator, is that there's 5 of us in the room, right? We may have the same box, same code, same age.
Sure.
We have 5 different palettes in the room. Obviously, that defines what this podcast is. But for you, that may be a different trigger point of saying, this is exactly where I need it. That might be different from me or Bam or Pagoda or Ricky. So for the listener out there, you can't be completely reliant as far as age goes, defining when a cigar is at the moment it needs to be smoked. It's up to you and your box and your palate to determine when a cigar is hitting and then to start diving into smoking it.
You also need to sample from your collection.
Yep.
And it's one thing I'm not very good at, I'll be honest. The common sense approach that Senator made, it's spot on, but I'm guilty of not going through my entire collection because I've got the tower.
We can help you with it.
Yeah, no problem. Then I have Tupperdoors with stuff just crammed in there. I actually don't even know what I have because I've been buying and it's just sticking in there. It makes me a little nervous how those cigars are doing. So I think it's a great idea. Grab a stick and see how it's doing.
And then if it's not great, wait again.
Exactly.
And what I'll do is if I find a box in my collection out there somewhere that I like, I'll take it and put it in my tower because it's more easily accessible. So then I'll start frequenting it more.
I'm in Senator's camp, by the way. My philosophy is,
Oh, we know.
If it's good, go through.
Oh, yeah.
say, go with your feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A cigar in hand is worth 2 in the humidor. You know?
Oh, we have a literary giant among us, ladies and gentlemen.
Edgar Allan Pagoda. Oh my gosh.
Enjoy it. Life is short.
No, I think too, the other thing, and Senator touched on this, obviously, if you're talking about a cigar that's been discontinued out of production or was a limited run, certain, regionals obviously are a one-time thing, certain limitadas obviously are exclusive. But if you're talking about a cigar that's still in regular production, it's about, and we've talked about this a lot, it's about finding those runs of cigars. So if we were to talk about the Upmann 2, and we're going to talk about the one we did on the podcast later when we review the ratings, you talk about that Lub 14 Upmann 2, that was a great run of cigars, but now, similar to this cigar we have, the BRE run of 1819 is performing very, very well. Obviously, it doesn't have 10 years of age like the Lubs do, but these cigars that we have and the Upmann 2s I have with BREs and some of the others, they're previewing that in 5 years, they may match or even beat the run that Lub was on in 2014.
So I know this from visiting your humidor, Giz. One way to sort of get deeper into the hobby and maybe help your cigars last a little longer is to record what you have. Have a great spreadsheet where you know what you have, so you're not falling into Bam Bam's case where
I
he's
will
kind
not
of
be
buying
updating that
things and-
spreadsheet. But I am not updating the spreadsheet.
He's not even creating it.
It's already there, and it's
He did create one. He
Yeah,
sent it
yeah.
to
Oh,
all
that's
of us.
right.
That's
That's
how
right.
the whole accountability hour started.
I'm going to update it, but privately.
Yeah.
But no, you have that spreadsheet, and every time you smoke one, you journal what you're having, the notes you're getting, and you have some notes to review, and just kind of make the hobby a little bit more full for yourself, and have a little bit more fun with it, and maybe it slows down the cigar smoking a little bit, so the cigars last a little longer. or at least just helps you make a more calculated decision.
That'll be like a 20-minute assignment every day. We
Yeah.
smoke 4 or 5 every
It's like
day.
homework.
Well, you know, if
What's
you're
his name?
This is Lizard Kobe.
Lizard Kobe. Lizard Kobe, you've got clearly it sounds like you've got an impressive collection. I like the advice that's being distributed here. You just sample them and see where they're at. And if they're good, I think you'd start going through them.
And the only other thing I would add just on standard production Cuban cigars, for standard production stuff that smokes really well young, that's the stuff you shouldn't be afraid to go through. If you're enjoying something, even if it's got some age, you know that you can buy it young and it's still going to deliver a really satisfying experience.
Yeah,
like
that's
we've
right.
talked about D4s, RAS, some of the usual suspects. They're great young.
They are.
Now, for Cuban cigars that suck young and really need time, yeah, those are the ones you don't want to go through very quickly.
Like
those
the-
are the ones I think of. I would never power through a box of Sir Winston's. Like, that needs age. It needs time. There's, I'm not going to power through a box of Partagas 898. That needs age. It needs time.
And there's also an element of scarcity that comes, even though both of those that you just named are quote unquote regular production, they don't come up very much. They're not in the same class of production as Upmann 2, Monty 2,
I was gonna say that, yeah.
D4.
Yeah.
If you're stocked on D4, Monty 2, Upmann 2s, the RAS, the classic stuff that you love, that's one thing. If you're talking about cigars that come up once a year in a limited quantity, that also has to factor into it. There is a scarcity of replacing that even with fresh boxes. It's very difficult. So all of those cigars you just named, I in my view, even regardless of age, need to be special occasion smokes. They're not regular rotation smokes. They're limited rotation smokes.
And the cost.
And the cost, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So congratulations to Lizard Kobe on winning Lizard of the Week. Of course, any listener out there can win Lizard of the Week. We've been doing this now about 2 months. You're going to win something from us, and you can win it simply by doing exactly what Lizard Kobe and the other lizards who've won this have done, which is send us an email, send us a voice memo, a comment, something great on Instagram, YouTube. We don't care how you get it to us. Send a carrier pigeon to Bam's house. We don't care.
Correct.
You can win Lizard of the Week and you'll get some free stuff from us. So congratulations to Lizard Kobe. Thank you for the great email and prompting that great discussion on smoking aged Cuban cigars.
Hey, guess I want to be Lizard of the Week.
You have to write us an email. Do you know? Let me ask you this. Do you know what our email is, Pagoda? Go ahead.
No, he does not.
I would love to hear this.
And
What is our-
honestly, neither do I.
It's giz@loungelizards.com.
Exactly. giz@giz.com.
Let's move on to another email. This is from Lizard Sean. Hey, Lizards, got a question for the group. Whenever I bring in my car for service, I always bring a cigar. Since it usually takes a good hour and a half for service, it's the perfect time for a smoke. Can you guys name something that is the perfect time to light up a smoke, similar to taking your car in for service? I'll give you one. Anytime I'm in my car.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's it.
I'll give you another. Conference calls.
Conference calls. There you go.
I haven't tried either.
What's nice about our lounge here is you can come here and take a conference call here and open your laptop and smoke, no problem. You don't have to be outside. But obviously, we're coming into the colder months now. But I'm lucky. I smoke in my car. Every time I get in my car, I'm usually lighting up, unless I have the family or the dogs with me. I'm lighting up when I'm driving. That's my solo peacetime. And I find, by the way, when I'm driving with a cigar in my hand, I'm so much more relaxed. It's like, cut me off. I don't care. Run around me. I don't care. We're in New Jersey, so we got some crazy drivers around here. But
Leave work early every day. Smoke one before
That's
you
the
get
rule
home.
of life, Pagoda number 1.
For me as a Yankee fan, I love West Coast games because they start later. So usually at that time, my kids are in bed. I get to go sit out on the deck. I do a little roving. I bring the rover out there with the television. I put the baseball game on. I sit at my table, bring out my laptop, try to get some work done at the same time. And there's no better time for me. I love that particular setup where I could watch a baseball game, bang out some scheduling or some costing or whatever, and then just enjoy a smoke at the same time.
Very efficient.
Yeah. I always have to be doing it's hard. The only time I could just sit and smoke is when I'm at the lounge with you guys.
Yeah, me too.
But if I'm at home, I have to be doing something else while I'm smoking. just helps me feel a little bit more productive.
I'll never forget when I had a newborn, just trying to fit in a cigar. I had it timed to the second. When my kid would go down for one of his naps, I'd like quickly slip out, have a cigar, shower, ease back up. Because at night, the problem is, they don't sleep through the night. So it's not like I could just come to the lounge and hang out with you guys. Me and my wife were splitting that up. And so, oh man, naps. That's what kept me going. In the afternoon, nothing better.
What was your perfect cigar for nap time?
Oh, a D4.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like I would have it in an hour, like 10, 15 minutes, just shower, change, and I'm set. It was perfect.
Nice.
The kid doesn't know. He doesn't know any different.
No.
So we have just done a refill of our Remy Martin Tercet, and each of us has put one single chip of ice in the cognac,
Yes, me too.
including Chef Ricky, which
Begrudgingly so.
Pagoda was thrilled to see. And Senator, what are you finding here?
I gotta say, it's outstanding. So the thing I noticed immediately, the aggressive heat on the nose, not obviously, when you drink it, but just on the nose, completely dissipated. It's like it's opened up and any of that has gone away. And I think the flavors I was getting before, I'm getting the same, arguably even more
A little pronounced,
intense.
yeah.
I'm thrilled. And again, this is not even like a standard ice cube. Like these are really small cubes.
Yeah,
in
they're
our
little
lounge.
squares, like
Yeah.
3/4 inch squares.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Well
And
done,
we
Giz.
each
Thank
just
you.
put one, so it's very little we're talking about. But I actually think in this case, it's even helped, and not that it needed it. Didn't
No,
need help.
I didn't
but
need it at all.
I think it's just taken away any edge that this had. That in some cases may be a little much.
Chef
Perfect.
is very fucking unhappy right now.
I will say the other thing too, before we let Chef do his rebuttal, is I actually like the spirit a little cooler
It is.
in
Like,
temperature.
It's
I like the ice impacting
Yeah.
the
that is
temperature
the
of it.
point.
It
it's a
does
touch
matter.
cooler.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, for me, the cocoa has become more pronounced.
Pronounced, right?
It has.
I
It
mean,
has.
Cocoa
Definitely.
and cognac. I mean, when have we ever experienced that really, truly like this?
And now from our yin to the yang. Chef Ricky.
Yeah,
Shit, what are we doing?
It's all right. Agreement is allowed.
this is tough because no, I
It's an acquired taste. It is. It really is.
it is, and for me personally, I don't think the ice added to the spirit. I think it's a little less hot right off the bat, but before I added the cube of ice, I took a sip, and I really enjoyed it then more so than now. What happens is for me, the ice took away the viscosity. It took the richness away. It took away the complexity of sort of that fresh plum and grape feeling aroma that I was getting in the beginning. And when I took the sip prior to adding the ice, I really just loved the richness of it.
No, I agree with you. I think the richness just it does dissipate a bit.
It dilutes it all around, right? So yeah, it dissipates the heat a little bit, but for me, it also took down. Yeah,
What are you talking about, dude?
no, I'm
I'm just looking at the legs on my glass.
Bam is staring
no,
at him
no,
with his
no.
glass
But
in the
I
air.
think you need to
I've
pour
got
some more
legs like
you-
I'm at the cabaret show here.
Pagoda poured yours, right? So I had,
little
I
heavy.
added, I
He's
added,
got too little.
I added maybe an ounce.
That's
That was
true.
probably an ounce and a half pour
is true.
that I put in mine. You probably have something like 3 to 4 ounces in your glass,
Mhm.
and so obviously the chip affected mine a lot more than it would have yours.
Did you get some of the flavors?
You
Or
could even see that my color is even lighter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And the
it's-
viscosity's down too.
yeah, it just really fucked up the spirit. for me.
there's just a bit
Thank you,
more of that.
Pagoda.
Why don't you add?
Thank you for proving me right.
Oh, so this
Hey.
debate will never end.
This is
Never
never
end.
going to end. We're going to be in episode 600. This is still going to be happening.
So yeah, if you drink your cognac at 4 ounces at a time, sure, a chip of ice won't do much.
I'll be walking in here with a cane
Yeah.
and full gray hair.
And they'll
Still
be
arguing
going
about the
at it.
ice.
Still be going at it. We had a major argument in the lounge the other night after the Buena Vista Social Orchestra. I think it might have been, what was it, Senator? Maybe an hour and a half. These two just
2 hours
constant.
plus.
It was
Correct.
just
I left
it
the
just
lounge
didn't
that night.
stop.
I left the lounge that night. Like I really got to drop the ice thing.
And that
I saw the look of disappointment.
Looks like
on
you really
Senator's
accomplished
face.
that.
But after tonight, I'm like, no, I don't need to drop it. I need
the
to go
Maverick of
harder.
the group,
I need to
the
go
Maverick,
Oh my lord!
he
that
could
is-
not stop arguing about the ice. Pagoda.
Yeah.
I was drunk. I was drinking from 3 p.m. that day.
Oh, we know.
How is that different from any other day?
Oh,
Well, a weekday I do work. That was a weekend.
sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, boys, let's go to our last Lizard email before we go into our ratings tonight. This one is from Lizard Donnie, a little bit of a tech question. Hey, Lizards, I just wanted to say congratulations on 150 episodes. It feels like I've found the podcast around episode 25, but it was yesterday. You guys are a familiar friend to me, as you sometimes say about cigars, and I really appreciate what you do very much. This might be a question only for Gizmo, but I'm curious how you guys make the podcast sound as good as it does. Obviously, sometimes the guys don't speak into the mic, and mic levels are off a little bit, and he puts in parentheses, cough, Puba, and Chef Ricky.
Yeah, I knew it.
But overall, your podcast is one of the highest production quality podcasts I've heard. I work for a large tech company out here in Seattle, and I listen in my AirPods 6 to 7 hours a day, various podcasts, yours being one of them, and having high quality audio really makes the work experience bearable for me. There's nothing worse than when I hear a good podcast that sounds bad. Anyway, I'm an audio geek on the side, and I'm very curious what stuff you guys use to make the show sound so great. I'd appreciate any insight. Thanks again, guys. Lizard Donnie.
Firstly,
from
we should
Seattle.
say go
Okay.
Giz. Go Giz.
No, before we say
You
good
go.
guess, Bam and I are looking at each other. Gizmo wrote this email.
Exactly right.
Are you the lizard of the week?
I wish.
Hey, exactly.
Did I just win Lizard of the Week?
By the way, everybody shut your mic off except for Giz. Go.
I knew I was going to get my balls busted on
Holy
this.
cow.
So how to answer that? So, we're in a difficult situation here room-wise because you have to factor in the fact that we're smoking cigars, right? So any other podcasts out there that you see or hear, they're not smoking cigars most of the time. So we have air filtration, we have, air conditioning, HVAC.
You're
we
also in an open room.
we're in an open room with no sound treatment.
with
so
multiple cavities, an
Yeah.
entryway, a golf simulator behind us. It's tough.
So
Yeah.
we're just saying how fucking awesome you are.
Yeah,
Giz,
I'm just
'cause, well,
expanding on what
yeah.
Lizard Donnie said here. So the easy answer to the question is each of us use a Shure SM7B mic, and we record into a great interface from Universal Audio, and we record into Apple's Logic Pro, and I have a bunch of plugins running. I'm not going to detail all those for the listeners now, but I will send some more info to Lizard Donnie. But the biggest thing for us is just trying to maintain a consistent experience when we record. Every time we set up, it's the same. We're all in the same spots, except Chef Ricky. He kind of floats around here, depending on who's here and who's not. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. We all wear headphones. That was important, actually, as we started the podcast, was introducing headphones. If you remember, not having our headphones in actually impacted the experience quite a bit. But yeah, so it's just high quality stuff and running the plugins that I do to try to eliminate noise and other things, and just trying to get the guys like Chef Ricky to speak into the mic. That's really the biggest thing.
I have so much pride for you right now.
Yeah. You get production engineer of the year.
I'm not
Thank
joking. I'm looking at you with eyes wide open now. I don't.
Not just.
So just that very brief description of the equipment.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the shallow dive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I'm impressed.
What was the lizard's name again?
This is Lizard Donnie.
Lizard Donnie. Let me tell you, Gizmo does not let anyone touch anything.
Oh no.
He has to set up the room and break it down all by himself. You can't touch a fucking cable. The only thing you could do is maybe break
Just
down
sit
the
down.
mic stand. But this guy, yeah. I mean, he hears it all the time. And
Well, look, let's just say it, okay? This podcast wouldn't exist without his knowledge.
Yeah.
And honestly, it comes together beautifully.
Not on cigars, just the audio.
Okay, well,
I'm kidding.
Audio,
or in
audio and
Spanish
pronunciation.
pronunciation.
Audio and
Pronunciation.
pronunciation. Those are my
Correct.
two expertises.
but I'm in I'm in awe of your ability to put all of this equipment together and make it work beautifully. Honestly,
Yeah, well,
Anywhere from a garage
Yeah.
to this room to
Forget a garage or this room. From a backyard in Havana, Cuba.
Correct.
Where
That's
we're
right.
interviewing the production
With-
manager of Cohiba.
At the-
Dogs
with the
and
dogs
cars.
at the PCA.
That gizmo, I mean, instead of these big Shure mics that there's no way we would bring into Cuba without a problem.
yeah, we'd be
I
in
mean,
prison.
Giz is finding these lavalier style mics that
You clip on your shirt.
wouldn't be a problem with customs there, and bringing all this great. We're downloading apps to capture the individual audio. I mean, the level of detail that Giz goes through to make sure that this, no matter where we're recording, even in as outrageous of a environment as in the outdoors in someone's yard in Havana, I mean, he deserves a world of credit.
All hail Sir Giz.
I don't know what to say. I'm just looking at you in awe. I am,
Thank you, Bam.
bro. I love you, man.
I love you.
This is why we tolerate the salads in the car.
At 70 miles an hour,
The belt.
smoking a cigar in between each bite.
That's right. The 40 gallons of seltzer and belching during the pot. We tolerate it all because of this.
The Bouchards early on.
That's right. The chocolates.
So any listener out there who wants to hear, you can hear the progress of the improvement of audio over the years. If you listen to the early episodes, you can hear the difference in the quality of audio as I've improved at what we're doing and tried to make it sound as good as possible. But my goal, of course, is that any listener who's listening in AirPods with an airtight, noise canceling situation it's as if they're sitting in the room with us. That's my goal. So for me, it's like I need to make it sound as good as it can be, so that even for the listener out there who's not as tuned into it as Lizard Donnie, when you hear something that's not great, audio production wise. Like, you may not know why, but it sounds like shit. And then when you hear something great, you may not know why, but it sounds great. So I try to lean that way to give every listener out there the experience that they're sitting in the room with us. So that's my goal here.
That's
So
great.
And I like Lizard Don, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and this is by far the best produced podcast that I listen to.
Content wise as well.
And yeah. And even dealing with my mic issues early on, which have improved.
Oh yeah, right. I like, by the way, you leaned into the mic as you said that.
Correct.
You do a freaking phenomenal job, man.
Thank you, boys, and thank you to Lizard Donnie out there. Like I said, any listener out there who wants to know a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of what we're doing, I'm not going to go through all that now. I'll send Donnie some notes on the plugins and stuff that I use to make it sound good. But it's a work in progress. Every episode, I'm constantly trying to tweak what we're doing and try to make it sound as good as possible. And of course, I love the feedback. I've gotten feedback from listeners who are blind. I've gotten listeners from who have hearing impairments, and I've gotten a lot of comments about that, about transcripts and other things. So any listener out there who has those kind of sensitivities or is hearing other things than even what we spoke about tonight, we love to hear from you, because we really want to make this an experience that's that welcoming of all the lizards out there, no matter the situation. So,
Donnie, I don't know what you've done, because Chef Ricky is right by the microphone now, and we don't want an injury over here. His spinal cord is finally straight. We don't want no injuries here.
Before we go into the ratings,
yes,
I don't think I've ever seen Senator light a cigar during the recording.
yeah.
Wow.
So he
Now,
has finished
hold
his
on.
H. Upmann.
What
Royal
is he
Robusto.
smoking now? That
the,
is
the
a-
Gizmo Special.
That's a P2.
Partagas
That's a
P2.
Gizmo special.
That's a Gizmo Special.
He has shit on that cigar.
He's heard from Lizard Donnie. He's feeling good about Gizmo.
In fairness,
He lit a
I've
P2.
never
In
shit on. In
fairness.
fairness, no, because that's not accurate. I've never shit on the cigar, and that if I've shit on a cigar, I say it's a bad cigar.
Hey,
I've
I'm a
never
propaganda
said-
machine, okay?
Oh, that's fair. I've never said a P2 is a bad cigar. I've just said it pales in comparison to a grade E2, which I will always stand behind. I will say this is a box that I've tucked away. Wow.
Really?
Wow, I'm sure it's awesome.
So what is the
Wow.
box code on this P2 before we get to the
Oh,
ratings?
I don't even remember. I just know it's a 2019 box.
Oh, great.
And man, these are good.
Awesome.
I'm just impressed that he took our LCDH tonight down to the end.
Yeah.
To the nub. And
Smoked
so
it all the way
the
down.
thing is, this will definitely be reflected in my
Oh
rating.
yeah.
I enjoyed that cigar so much. I would die to smoke another one back to back.
Mhm.
And so my next best option was, I told you that this reminded me of a Partagas. was to just pull a Partagas and just keep smoking.
It's true.
Do you have 4 more so we can start the second episode?
Yeah, because we're almost done over here, by the way.
We'll
I'm
just
almost
keep it
done.
rolling. We'll just keep it rolling.
Rooster has them.
So thanks again to Lizard Donnie, of course. Thanks to Lizard Sean and our Lizard of the Week, Lizard Kobe. Thank you guys so much for writing us. We really appreciate it. And boys, it's time to move into the ratings portion of our program. Tonight, we're going to start with the Remy Martin Tercet Cognac. Bam Bam, you're up.
So I'll go out on a limb and say this is probably the best cognac I've ever had.
Really?
I think from my experience tonight, the price is difficult at $140, but the richness that it has, because it's so rich, common sense will say, and I know for myself, 1 or 2 glasses and I'm done for the night. After dinner, I'm fully satisfied.
Especially if Pagoda pours.
But yeah, but the versatility is limited because it's so rich and it's so expensive. I was playing between a 9 and a 10, but I'm going to give this a 9. I think it's outstanding. I don't think I've ever had anything like this that was so cocoa forward. 9 for me.
This is outrageous.
That's a crime? Is that
I mean, you started it by
that
saying
the
it's
best cognac you've ever had?
you've
I
ever
thought it was going to
had.
be 20.
And I'm
He's
pretty
leaving
sure
room.
you've given
Let me ask,
cognacs a 10
can you
before, so
have-
how could the 9 be better than your 10s
because of the
before?
versatility. Can you drink this every single day for the price and the richness that it has?
I tell you what,
It'd
if
be
you,
tough.
if you never added ice, you would have gave it a 10.
No. I think it was, for me, it was 9 and 10 all the way through. But I don't see myself drinking this all year long, every week.
Yeah.
Absolutely special occasion.
I'm just
for
going to
me.
say, we've done several XO cognacs.
Mm.
They're 200 to 250 a bottle. There's none of us that are drinking that daily. But we've given countless 10s because they're unbelievable spirits.
They are. Turn your mic off, Pagoda. I'll give it a 10.
Oh!
No. It's 9.
I've
It's
been
9.
lobbied.
I'm sorry.
You can't change it.
Yeah.
Nope.
I'm going to give it a 10.
If Pagoda wasn't here, I would say maybe, but
No.
Maybe.
I can't fight with Pagoda tonight. I don't
Pagoda,
have-
can he just change it?
Nope.
That's not right.
Okay, Chef Ricky.
Nice transition there, Giz.
Couldn't wait for this. So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot of cognac experience either outside of 1738 and maybe some VSs in my younger years. No ice, neat. This was a 9. With ice, a 7.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah. Well, again, take into account the pour I had with the, how
That
much
amount you had in your
how
glass.
much the ice impacted that. It really took it down for me. It muted a lot of the flavor that I was getting that made it special. So I'm not going to focus on the ice, although it's what I'm currently drinking. So that's where my head
You
went.
didn't properly pour for yourself there.
That's true.
Well, but
An ounce is not enough.
But if I have to pour more to compensate for the ice, and I didn't need the ice in the first place, which is what I always tell listeners.
He's talking to you, Pagoda.
So yes, it was
I'll get my chance.
My first round was a 9. This cognac was rich. I really loved how the spirit of wine came through. Just a lot of plum and almost just kind of musty grape that was there. I appreciated that it wasn't super toffee, butterscotch, or vanilla forward, which is what I think some people expect out of a cognac. But it still had richness and body, even though it didn't have those other components with it. So I did love the fact that it was a complex cognac and it brought something new for me to the table. So with that, I'll give it a 9 with ice a 7.
Okay, Pagoda.
So I've been between a 9 and 10, and I'll tell you the real reason why. Because I think
The ice.
it's really interesting because I really enjoyed this cognac without ice. But I also felt that it's not something I would go and get another pour because it was so rich. It was very satisfying.
Mhm.
It's like one of the liquors where you take your time after dinner, have a nice cigar, and have a reasonable pour, and, one and done should be good enough. This is so satisfying.
And at $140 a bottle, you don't want anything.
So
That's
you're-
great, right?
you're
That's
echoing my
something great,
sentiments.
Yeah, no, so absolutely.
To a
I
degree.
no, and I
And
totally
mine.
agree. I
And
totally
mine.
agree with you. I think what the ice did for me is, yes, Chef Ricky is right. It did mute a little bit of
We
some
need
of
a soundbite for this.
This is crazy.
some of the flavors, but for me the cocoa got pronounced,
Yeah.
and it was with a chip of ice. I think I could drink a couple more glasses, right? So it's really I think I'm going to rate it a 9 just because of that. But it's been a fantastic cognac.
So for me, it's a 10. I think that this cognac is the perfect in between what my experience has been with VSOP and with XO. I think it's absolutely perfect. I think that, of course, this is a special occasion cigar pairing for me. It's a special occasion cognac, but I am going to buy a bottle because I think at this price point, it's a little bit more reasonable for me than some of the XOs. And the way it
That's
performed
true.
tonight,
That's true.
it was
Yeah,
really
great point.
special to me.
It's special.
And it really hit my palate perfectly, both with ice and even better without. And I think that the final note that I'll say on this is that if they were to market this as the cigar cognac from Remy Martin, it would be the perfect moniker for this cognac. I think this is the perfect pairing for cigars, for Cuban cigars, even for some New World cigars that we smoke. I think it would perform brilliantly. And I think it would step above the Remy Martin in its performance. Of course, obviously I'm giving this a 10. I might have given the 1738 a 9 or a 10. I don't remember. Factoring in price, of course, that's going to play there. But this is a 10 for me. It's a 10 for the pairing. It's a 10 with cigars. It's a really, really brilliant spirit. So I'm very, very happy with it. And I can't believe how good this performed on a whim tonight, never having heard of it. It's just a fantastic cognac.
Is it a 10 from the point of view of versatility and frequency of consumption?
It's a 10 in the way it's going
How
to
often will you
slot.
have it?
It's a special occasion
Correct.
at $140.
Right.
But it's in that middle point between VSOP and XO, that's the right price, 130 to 160, let's say.
Yeah, I'm
That's
sorry.
the right
Yeah, no,
price
it's
for that.
true.
It's
true.
perfect for that.
I just need to quickly on the price thing, and then I'll say the rest when I rate this. On the price thing, I mean, we've reviewed cigars that are $100 a friggin' cigar
Yeah.
that we burn through in an hour. A bottle of any spirit is going to last you months,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm talking like a high-end spirit. You're not
Sure,
going to
sure.
just, plow through that in a night. So this whole notion that like $140,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, like we burn that in an hour sometimes.
It's not so much the cost, it's the richness of it that I can't see myself doing this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Oh, well, not a daily basis.
Weekly?
It's a high price spirit, but for what it
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
what it's trying to be,
It's incredible. It's
I
an
think
incredible cognac.
I'll be honest, I think it reaches above what it's trying to be. I think it reaches above what Remy intended it
That's
to
a
be.
good point. Good
and
point.
as a pairing to cigars, which is what we do here and how I rate, I think this is a perfect special occasion cognac for cigars.
Can I change my rating? No, I'm just kidding. Nope.
No, I'm good with a 9.
I gotta say, as a chef, this is a perfect way to end a meal.
Well, that's
Sure.
This is
Thank you.
beautiful. This is dessert without ice. It's dessert.
Absolutely.
It's yeah.
All right, Senator, you're up.
I'm just going to start by saying
Let the politician in the room now begin.
Gizmo is my lizard of the week.
Hey!
I
Wait, is it because the podcast sounds good or because of the cognac commentary?
I mean, both, but really right now, the cognac. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, this is outrageous. I'm very disappointed. I say this because obviously I've pushed cognac hard and this group has embraced it. But this rating, this is unbelievable to me. Look, we have done every XO that we've rated has gotten at least 110, if not almost everyone has given it a 10. Those are $200 to $250 bottles. They're not bottles that we're going to drink every week, even every month. They're special occasion bottles. But if we had, $1 billion, sure, it'd be nice to be able to drink that every day. That's just not how any of us live.
That's right.
So I this notion that if you can't drink it every day, it somehow can't get a 10. I mean, we've never rated that way. I'll start with that.
Or once a week.
Number two, I've always admitted I don't pursue higher proof spirits. And I'm not saying that, there's a right or a wrong. That's just my personal preference because with a cigar, I don't like things overpowering it. This at a, slightly higher proof, it's not in a crazy proof. It's so delicious. I mean, I could drink, I'm sorry, several glasses. And why I needed to put the ice in this is just to see if it could just tamp down a little bit of the heat while maintaining still a lot of flavor. And with a healthier pour, it absolutely can. I had a healthier pour. I totally get with Chef Ricky had a small pour. That ice is going to definitely dilute it so much.
Chef
that you're
Ricky
gonna
doesn't
lose
like
that.
to drink, by the way. I'm kidding.
Can I say, by
It's
the
not
way,
a tequila.
the one thing that my intention with the ice, maybe this is parallel to what you're saying, it was accelerating the opening that we experienced over, let's say, 20, 25 minutes of the beginning of the podcast.
That's correct.
We poured,
Correct.
started the podcast. We didn't even go to the drink until 20, 25 minutes. My
That's
intention with the ice was just to accelerate that because we were moving into our second glass in the rating. So that's where I was going with the chip of
For
ice.
sure.
But
And
for me, that wasn't even needed because the bottle was already opened. So a lot of that, by the time we were done with our initial pours, there was half a bottle. So that space was replaced with oxygen. So it wouldn't come through as hot.
That's fair.
Was it oxidizing?
Yes.
Yeah.
The oxygen was doing
It was
its thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bam Bam is playing the hits.
Yes.
So
All right, Senator, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oxygen
So-
oxidizes.
all I'll say is there have been other higher proof spirits that we've done that I've really enjoyed and appreciated. And I have said, for me, though, I'd only have 1 or 2 glasses in a sitting and I'm good. I don't need any more. I'm sorry. I could, if we had a whole other bottle of this, I could drink this the rest of the night. That's how
Really?
much I enjoy this. And that's very characteristic of cognac.
I don't disagree with that.
Cognac is never this like overwhelming, aggressive experience. Like, certain high proof bourbons, they're meant to like really overwhelm the palate in such a satisfying way that you just need a glass or 2 in a sitting. Cognac is the complete opposite of that. And that's why for me, even this at like a slightly higher proof, there's nothing that is so overwhelming about this cognac. We're pairing this cognac with a Cuban cigar. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
other higher proof.
this is a different Cuban cigar.
It's a different Cuban cigar, but it's not a Padron. It's not a full body
Yeah.
stick. Like
no, that's true.
it's a medium cigar just with a lot of flavor. And so for even versatility for me, the fact that this can pair with a Cuban cigar, I would drink this with a D4 with any standard fare Cuban just as much as I would drink it with a New World Fuller cigar. And the price point I actually think is fantastic. Now, not fantastic in the sense that I'm going to drink this every day, but the high end of cognac, like Scotch and every other spirit out there, you're talking a $200 price point
Mhm.
to really enjoy some of the best stuff that any of these brands put out. What I loved about Remy's 1738 is that they understood it's obviously too much to ask a consumer to spend $200 a bottle. People are not going to drink that often. And the VSOP in Remy is good, but it's nothing special. And to create something in between that obviously skews closer to the VSOP side at $60, I thought was brilliant. To do this even at $140 and save the $60 and having to shell out $200 for a special occasion, I think is awesome. I would drink this any special occasion, and it's so good and a little lower in price that I wouldn't feel as guilty indulging outside of a holiday when I just want something special. So for all of those reasons, I think it's complex. I think it's rich and full in flavor. I think it's balanced. I think, Chef Ricky called this out. It's not an overly sweet cognac. It doesn't just deliver some of the obvious traditional notes that you get in a lot of cognacs. So,
And the oak, it's not oak
No,
crazy.
it's not.
for sure.
There's
not.
just, like he said, there's a kiss of it.
Yeah.
And for me, what this reminds me of, and it's Balvenie in a way, not in the same exact flavor profile, but when you compare the Balvenie 12, the standard run of the mill that we all love and appreciate, Balvenie 17, which is a bottle that I routinely break out for special occasions. Thanksgiving is usually one of the bottles that I have there. And that runs between $160 and $180 a bottle. Balvenie 17 is Balvenie 12 on steroids.
Mhm.
It's just fuller, richer, more viscous, more intense, similar notes. To me, this cognac, it's fuller, richer, more viscous, more intense than the 1738 we love. And at $140, I do think that that's a fair price point for it. So for all those reasons, I'm at a strong 10.
By the
All
way,
right,
Senator, you made such a great case. if you had gone before me, I think I would have rated it. No, not because
No
of
peer
anything.
pressure. Peer pressure is not allowed.
Peer pressure. You know what it is? I'll be very honest. It is, like Bam said, it is one of the most flavorful and one of the best tasting cognacs I've had. Not because of anything. I like the cocoa flavor.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
Very
it enhanced the
unique.
cigar. And it did a lot of really wonderful things. I was just thinking to myself that can I have another 2 or 3 of these? That's the thought process which was making me debate it a bit. But you're right. Maybe this is one of those ratings where I could have either gone 10 or 9.
Well, we were all
And-
at a 9 and 10.
And so it's a very, very, very good cognac.
It's
Yeah.
special.
And I think the other side of it is I'm going to buy it.
There you go.
Yeah,
So, and not only that,
Of
we
course.
finished a bottle between 5 of us.
That's
we
right.
did.
That's true. And we will all be buying.
And we
one.
all want more.
Yeah.
And so, my thought is, it's one of those ratings I'm kind of, damn, I wish I had rated it 10. It's fantastic, guys. If you get a chance, at least try it.
Pagoda, you've redeemed yourself.
All right, thank you. No, but I do feel that way. It was, I think I was very, very close and I was debating and it's fantastic. It is.
It's fantastic.
All right, boys. So that puts the formal liquor rating tonight on the Remy Martin Tercet at 9.4, which for how great that rating is, I think it's a little low. I'll be honest.
It is a bit low.
It's a touch low. We could have used one more 10 in the room to get that up to a 9.6 maybe.
I agree.
Yeah.
So let's compare that to the other Remy Martin spirits that we've done on the podcast. There were 3. We'll start with the Remy Martin VSOP on episode 40, scored an 8.4. We did that cigar. We did that cognac with the H. Upmann number 2, the Lub 14 that we'll talk about in a minute. The Remy 1738 on episode 53 scored a 9.3. And the highest rated Remy we did was the XO on episode 42, scored a 10.0.
No, but it's pretty accurate.
So
right?
it's pretty accurate. I think a 9.6 would be
9.6
more
would have been.
appropriate.
I think
I'm-
between me and Bam, we were very close to 10s.
I'm surprised that the 1738 got a point below the 9.3.
Of course, it deserves below this.
Yeah.
Especially at the price.
But that's why this should be higher.
it should be higher.
It should. The versatility of the
It is higher.
1738. You guys know, I killed a bottle of that last week. I drank that almost every time I walked into the club.
Yeah.
I don't see myself doing that with as much as I love this. You guys know how much I love this cognac tonight. I can't do this 2-3 nights a
Because
week.
it's also 140
I
in a
know.
bottle.
I don't.
But
For
again-
me,
No,
the
I
price
don't
is.
think it's a
But hold
pricing.
on. The
I
price
think
for me
it's
is not the
richness.
factor. It's the richness of it.
It's not
Yeah.
just that. The Remy XO, every single lizard gave a 10. It got
Yep.
a perfect 10.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a bottle
That's
that
true.
none of us have drank since
Or
then
bought.
because the price point is high, but that doesn't change that it is outstanding. And that cognac is super rich
That's a good
and
point.
it's for
dude.
special
But,
occasions.
It's a
but
good
you know what
point.
it
It's
is?
a good point.
It's a bit smoother.
It is.
And so
Oh,
what
yeah.
ends up happening is it's like one of those where you don't mind saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, pour me more, pour me more,
It is
pour me
easier to
more."
drink.
But with this, I felt like, damn, this was so satisfying that I could have been done with one and done.
One
you
or
know?
two, like I
feels a little
said.
gluttonous.
And I
now,
think that's
I
what
needed more.
Yeah.
I do need more
I'm
now.
sorry. I
You're a
needed more.
hardcore drinker, dude.
Damn, I shouldn't have poured you this
with
much.
an excellent spirit.
No, it was an excellent spirit. I think, as you know, we've discussed this. I think between Bam and I, one of us could have gone one way or the other, and it would have been
I
definitely.
think so too.
But a
That's true.
94 reflects that it's an excellent spirit.
Of course.
It
Yeah.
does.
No, it
I
is.
just, the last thing I'll say for me, this is one of the most exciting spirits we've done
I agree.
in a long time. Outside of
Oh,
like some of
yeah.
the eye-opening like mezcals and tequilas, which I'm less familiar. So for me, a lot of them are very exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But for the stuff we've done a ton of, like Scotch, cognac, in that category, I haven't been this excited about one of those types of spirits in a long time.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
agree.
bit of a game changer from the point of view of cognac consumption, no doubt about
All
it.
right, boys, let's move now into the formal lizard rating tonight on the H. Upmann Royal Robusto La Casa del Habano release from Cuba. Senator, you're up first tonight.
Wow.
Oh yeah, pressure, baby.
What's
Can everyone
the-
just stare at him, please?
Well, I'm glad I'm going to be able to set the tone this time. I wish I got to go first on the
Oh,
cognac.
here we go.
Although I don't know whether it'll help.
That's an
everyone.
indictment.
There we go.
That's an
Yes, it-
indictment.
Oh, yes, it is.
I'm just two said, can I switch my rating? So I'm
I
just,
was, I was kidding.
You didn't sound it at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't at all.
No.
Quick question before I rate. What was the price point on this cigar again?
So these range, there's a wide range of these. They come in 10 count boxes. They range anywhere between $40 and $50 a cigar.
Oh my lord.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, that is honestly, it's heartbreaking to hear
I know.
that.
Yeah.
I know.
Truly heartbreaking, because absent that, this would have been a 10.
Yeah.
I can't give it a 10 because there are other cigars that deliver a similar experience at $20, at most $25 a stick. So I'm going to have to give it a really, really strong 9. I wanted to give this a 10 so badly. I say that because for me, obviously anyone who's listened to this podcast knows I'm obsessed with Partagas, and I love Upmann. That's my second favorite Cuban marca. This was the closest Upmann to Partagas I've ever had. It was so flavorful and satisfying. It held up against a higher proof cognac the entire way. Never batted an eye. A D4 I can get at, $20. I can't give this a 10 if it's going to cost me $40, $50 for this cigar. So what I'll say is, anyone who loves Upmann, Partagas, this is a must try. I will definitely smoke this again, even at the price point that, makes me cringe a little bit. But at $40, $50, it's not something that I'm going to buy a lot of, because I can replicate this experience with other cigars. The cognac for me, there's not another cognac that will deliver this exact same experience at a lower price point. There's not. But with this cigar, there is. And so I'm at a strong 9. And like I said, anybody who loves either of those marcas needs to try it.
Yeah.
So for me, the cigar is a 10. I've been
Wow.
there almost since the light. I am shocked by this cigar. I was shocked at its performance tonight, at its flavor, at how robust it was.
It's difficult not to give it a 10.
It really
difficult.
It's
It is
challenging
difficult.
for me. And the thing I think about, why is it a 10 over a 9? And for me, it's because I am depressed that I don't have another box in my tower, and I want to go find another. Even if it's a different age, I want to go find another box of 10 of these cigars and just hold on to them and smoke them as regular special occasion cigars, if that makes any sense. Regular special occasions. This is one of those cigars that really surprised me from start to finish. I came in tonight expecting, like, here we go again, another LCDH release from Habanos. It's going to be a 6 or a 7.
We were all very skeptical.
It's going to be a torturous night where the pairing is going to outduel it. And it wasn't the case. This cigar really was excellent. I enjoyed every single puff of it. I took it all the way down to the knob. I was burning my finger. Very, very happy with it. The flavors are right in my wheelhouse. That leather thing is a constant for me with great Cuban cigars. I think about the Sir Winston. I think about some of the Partagas I love, as Senator mentioned. It really, really rang my bell. So for me, it's a 10. Pagoda.
It's a 9 for me. This is another one I struggled with today in terms of between 9 and 10, because I really love the flavor profile. I like the cocoa in any cigar. That's really my flavor profile. Started off medium, and I think it smoked between a medium and I thought even a little medium plus, throughout.
Yeah, I don't
uh,
disagree.
What was that?
medium plus. That's a reference to Gaz, of course. But it was such an excellent cigar in terms of smoking it. I think why I'm rating it a 9, and I just want the listener to know, is my particular cigar was very, very soft in the middle. So I had to touch it up at least like 10 times, unfortunately. If I would have had a better stick, maybe I would have rated it
I
10.
counted 6 times, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I was counting.
But
In fairness, his cigar was almost 60 ring gauge.
It's true.
But one of the most flavorful Cuban cigars I've had, which I really enjoy, and I'd ideally like to buy it, except for the price point.
Sure.
Having said that, it was a tough one for me, because I do know that if it was smoked all the way through, it would have been a 10 for me, but it's a 9, unfortunately.
All right, Chef Ricky.
Yeah, for me, it's a 9. I think you guys saw maybe early on I was somewhat I don't know, give me a great vocabulary word here because there was some trepidation maybe for me.
Woo!
That's a
Look at
$5
this.
word. That's a $5 word.
That's a toilet paper
Uh,
word.
I'm sorry. Let's call Grinder. You want me to call Grinder? I can do that.
yeah, so it started. I wasn't getting all of the flavors that you guys had started with. It did come for me, maybe at the start of the second, third, and it started to develop. I did have some burn issues. I had to touch it up twice or three times maybe. But it was a delicious cigar. I'd say medium full. I agree with you 100% on that pagoda. Just kind of touching the full spectrum, not hanging there. But it was amazing. Great flavor. It paired amazingly well with the cognac, especially when there was no ice in there. I gotta say, I think with ice, this cognac would go even well.
Here
He's
we
back
go.
on the cognac.
Because I did want to say it earlier, but it was so heated. The conversation was so heated. I didn't find a time to step in.
So you just needed something to cool down.
No, I think this cognac with a chip of ice would even go well with a lighter bodied Cuban.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
It did
Agreed.
it did really well. Just no ice with this cigar did amazingly well. It was a pleasurable experience. It wasn't the perfect experience for me, which is why I can't give it a 10, but I think a 9 is well warranted for the stick.
All right, Bam Bam.
Yeah, this is difficult. There aren't many cigars that I would have had with this cognac. The Maduro 1, the 3, and maybe the Ras.
Yeah.
And probably a very heavily aged D4, which are rare to find. But this cigar was so cocoa forward. It complemented what we drank beautifully today. I'm dying to give it a 10. I am dying. Do you know exactly what you paid for this? Because you gave us a range of between $40 and $50.
So the problem is when I purchased it a few years ago, it was before the price Armageddon. So
Okay.
I probably paid $25, $30 a stick. But for any listener hearing this right now or us going out to purchase it again, the actual market price today
Yeah.
is between $40 and $50. So I'm not going to tell you,
We all know
You know
at
what I mean?
$25,
$25 a
this would
cigar.
have been a 10,
For sure.
10,
Yeah.
10.
but at today's price, I don't feel comfortable
So
saying
let me ask
25.
another question. How available are these? I've
You-
never
you-
seen these come up
You
anywhere.
can get 10 counts here and there. It's not crazy to
So
find.
I got to give it a 9.
Okay.
Honestly, because of the price, but I don't think I've ever had such a cocoa forward experience in any cigar like I've had tonight.
No, it was
I
excellent.
wouldn't say any cigar, but any Cuban cigar.
And to this,
Yes, that's a good point.
but for me, the degree of cocoa that I got was just unusual from my experience tonight. So I am at a 9 because of the price.
All right, boys, that puts the formal Lizard rating tonight on the H. Upmann Royal Robusto La Casa del Habano from Cuba at a 9.2. So let's compare that to the other LCDH releases and the H. Upmann releases we've done on the podcast.
This is going to be a landslide.
It's a landslide victory. We'll start with the LCDHs. The Ramon Ionis Superioris LCDH on episode 54 scored a 5.7. The Hoyo Elegantis LCDH episode 74 scored a 4.8.
My Lord.
The Partagas
Wow.
Aliados LCDH on episode 133 scored a 5.7.
Wowza.
The La Gloria Cubana LCDH Glorious on episode 137 scored a 7.7. And the H. Upmann Connoisseur B, so the sister cigar to this, with an actual LCDH band on it on episode 111, scored a 7.2. So
Wow.
landslide for sure on LCDHs. Now, let's compare it to the other H. Upmanns we've done on the pod. On episode 6, we did the H. Upmann Magnum 46, scored a 8.1. On episode 40, the famous Lub 14, number 2, scored a 9.8. On episode 62, the Magnum 50 scored a 7.6. That's the famous Bam Bam Accountability Hour episode, which I know he loves for when I repeat that.
Oh, sure.
H. Upmann Robustos Anahados on episode 72 scored a 9.6. The Connoisseur number A, which is technically an LCDH release, unbanded, on episode 86 scored a 9.2. That did very well. On episode 96, the Connoisseur number 1 scored an 8.6. And on episode 125, the Connoisseur number 2 rated a 9.0. And finally, on episode 135, the H. Upmann Half Corona scored a 9.7.
Wow.
So tonight at a 9.2, this matches with the Connoisseur A and is only beat by the Half Corona
and the
and the Robustos Anahados. And the number 2.
Right.
And the number 2, yeah.
The
And the number
Anahados
2.
was incredible, but the reason, again, that Half Corona scored so well is because we have a lot of it and we can smoke that literally every day.
And we talked about this.
Versatility matters.
But we talked about this on that episode with the Half Corona, Bam. That cigar from Habanos, I think collectively in the room is probably the only Habano cigar that none of us have ever had an issue with any of them.
That's true.
Right? I mean,
And it's
I remember-
it's the best short cigar there is.
best cigar. Yeah, fantastic. So that's it for tonight, boys. Again on the podcast, the Remy Martin Tercet scored a 9.4 and the H. Upmann Royal Robusto LCDH scored a 9.2. I will say, what a great night tonight. Fantastic pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Incredibly delicious, very rich experience overall.
absolutely. Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Congratulations again to Lizard Kobe, who won Lizard of the Week. Again, if you out there want to win Lizard of the Week, all you have to do is send us some feedback, a note, an email, whatever you choose. You're going to win some stuff from us. We'd like to thank all of our listeners for writing out to us each week. We always love to hear from you. Thanks to Fabrica 5, our partner. They've been fantastic. Go check out their cigars. Use our code, of course, LizardPod. And we'll see everybody next week. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for joining us. You can find our merch store and ratings archive at our brand new website, loungelizardspod.com. That's loungelizardspod.com. Don't forget to leave us a rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to reach out, say hello, tell us what you're smoking, email us, hello@loungelizardspod.com. You can also find us on Instagram @loungelizardspod. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.